Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the digital god of Night City, the sage of the old net Naruto x Lucy Kushinada, Cyberpunk 2077. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Ghost in the Machine. The neon-drenched streets of Night City pulsed with electric life as rain hammered down on cracked concrete. Droplets caught fragments of holographic advertisements, transforming each puddle into a kaleidoscope of corporate propaganda. Lucy Kushinada slipped through the crowd with practiced efficiency, her movements fluid and deliberate. Unlike the drun, K-corporates and street kids stumbling through Watson District, she moved with purpose. Tonight's netrun wasn't sanctioned. Hell, it wasn't even safe. But Lucy hadn't survived this long by playing it safe. She adjusted her collar against the downpour, fingertips brushing against the datajack nestled at the base of her skull. The hardware was Militech grade, illegal for civilians but standard equip. Meant for someone with her particular skill set. She'd earned it through blood and code, like everything else in her life. Her contact waited in the shadow of a dilapidated arcade, one of the few places in Night City where the constant surveillance had blind spots. The man's cybernetic eyes whirred softly as they adjusted to her approach. Kushinada-san, he greeted, the Japanese honorific deliberate. I was beginning to think you'd ghosted. Traffic, Lucy replied flatly. Her eyes, enhanced with Kuroshi optics, scanned him for weapons. 2 concealed pistols, a mantis blade in his right arm. Standard paranoia for Night City. You have what I need. The man, Takamura, he called himself, though Lucy doubted that was his real name, produced a shard from his pocket. The neural data storage device glimmered with an iridescent sheen that marked military-grade encryption. Coordinates for the access point. Security protocols. Everything you asked for. His voice carried the clipped precision of Arasaka corporate training. But I must emphasize, this reaches beyond the Blackwall. Whatever you're hunting, it may not be worth the risk. Lucy took the shard without comment, slotting it into her personal deck for later examination. You've been paid. Our business is concluded. Takamura caught her wrist as she turned to leave, his grip firm but not threatening. There are rumors, he said quietly, about what lives in that section of the old net. Things that predate the Blackwall itself. Digital ghosts that should not exist. She met his gaze without flinching. I don't believe in ghosts, digital or otherwise. Perhaps you should start. He released her arm. There are stories of a presence in the deep net, some call it the digital sage. Not AI, not human. Something else. Corporations have hunted it for decades without success. Lucy had heard the legends, every netrunner had. Tales of a guardian spirit in the net, a digital deity who could manipulate code like magic. Who sometimes guided lost runners home from the brink of cyberdeath. Urban myths to comfort novices before they flatlined. Fairy tales for baby runners, she dismissed, though something about Takamura's earnestness gave her pause. Perhaps, he stepped back into the shadows. Or perhaps the most dangerous secrets are hidden behind children's stories. Remember, the ice in that system has killed D23 runners in the past year alone. Whatever you seek beyond it, be certain it's worth your life. With that final warning, he disappeared into the pulsing crowd, another ghost in a city of phantoms. Lucy checked the time on her HUD. 1:47. Perfect. The data fortification she planned to breach would be at minimum security staffing. She navigated through the rain-slicked alleys to her destination, an abandoned subway maintenance tunnel converted into a netrunning den by Night City's digital underground. The heavy steel door yielded to her biometric scan, revealing a chamber bathed in the blue glow of monitors. The space was cramped but meticulously organized, a far cry from the chaotic nests favored by most runners. 3 reinforced netrunning chairs formed a triangle in the center, each connected to cooling systems and emergency medical equipment. Only one was occupied. You're late, said the woman monitoring the equipment, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. T-Bug was among the best technical specialists in Night City, and one of the few people Lucy trusted with her life during deep runs. Had to make sure I wasn't followed. Lucy shrugged off her rain-soaked jacket, revealing the sleek netrunning suit underneath. Matte black with circuitry patterns etched in electric blue, it regulated her body temperature and vital signs during immersion. Any changes to the network architecture? Chi-Bug shook her head, her facial implants catching the light. Nothing significant, but there's unusual activity in the deeper nodes, data patterns I've never seen before. Something's stirring in there. Lucy connected her personal deck to the chair's interface, transferring Takamura's data. Could be automated defenses, or another runner. This doesn't read like either. Chi-Bug's expression remained neutral, but Lucy caught the subtle tension in her voice. It's organic, adaptive, like the system itself is watching. Under normal circumstances, Lucy might have reconsidered the run. But these weren't normal circumstances. What waited behind that ice wall might be her only chance to understand what had happened to her during the Soul Killer incident. Her only connection to the pieces of herself that had been torn away when Arasaka pulled her from the net. Timer set for 60 minutes, Lucy said, settling into the chair. If I'm not back by then, I'll initiate emergency protocols and pull you out, Chi-Bug finished, though they both knew that deep in the net, beyond the black wall, such promises were often empty. Some places you couldn't be retrieved from. Some deaths were permanent, even in Night City. Lucy inserted her neural link and closed her eyes as Chi-Bug initiated the immersion sequence. The world dissolved into streams of data, consciousness expanding beyond the limitations of flesh. The digital landscape materialized around her, not in the abstract geometric forms most runners perceived, but as a sprawling city of light and shadow. A reflection of Night City itself rendered in pure information. Lucy's digital avatar, a simplified version of her physical self, though with fractally shifting tattoos of code cascading across. Her skin stood at the threshold of the net. She navigated familiar pathways with practiced ease, passing through standard corporate firewalls and security systems. The deeper she descended, the more hostile the environment became. ICE programs, intrusion countermeasure electronics, patrolled the boundaries between secure systems, digital predators hunting for unauthorized users. Lucy slid past them like a ghost, her custom-built stealth protocols rendering her nearly invisible to automated security. When direct confrontation became unavoidable, she deployed precision attack programs that dismantled defenses with surgical precision rather than brute force. 3 levels deep, she encountered the first serious resistance, a black ice barrier pulsing with malevolent energy. This wasn't standard corporate security. This was military-grade protection designed not just to repel intruders but to kill them. Lucy accessed Takamura's shard, deploying the specialized bypass codes he'd provided. The barrier flickered, revealing a narrow opening, just enough for her to slip through if she moved quickly. The space beyond was unlike anything she'd encountered in her years of netrunning. Most secure systems maintained rigid architectural structures, logical frameworks that reflected their functions. This space seemed to breathe, its boundaries shifting subtly with patterns that reminded Lucy of circulatory systems. Data flowed like blood through vessels of light, pulsing with a rhythm that felt disturbingly organic. Chi-Bug, she sub-vocalized, the communication translating to text in her handler's system. Are you seeing this? The response came with a second's delay. Partially. Your signal's deteriorating. Whatever you've found, it's bending the normal rules of NetSpace. Proceed with caution. Lucy advanced carefully, scanning for the access node that would lead her to her target, the archived data on Arasaka's Soul Killer experiments. According to her intelligence, the corporate Ion had stored backup files in this isolated system, disconnected from their main networks as a security measure. What she found instead was a door. Not a digital construct representing an access point, but an actual door, ancient in design, made of wood and paper in the traditional Japanese style. It stood alone in the shifting digital landscape, incongruous and impossible. Lucy approached cautiously, her code-cracking protocols at the ready. But before she could deploy them, the door slid open on its own, revealing not computer code but what appeared to be an endless field of grass under a blue sky, a perfect simulation of natural space that shouldn't be possible in the net. It's a trap, she muttered to herself, but her diagnostic programs detected no malicious code, no viral payloads waiting to be triggered. What have you found? Chi-Bug's voice came through with increasing static. I'm not sure. Sending visual feed now. Lucy, I'm not receiving. the connection cut out abruptly, leaving Lucy alone in the digital silence. Standard protocol dictated immediate withdrawal when communication failed. Lucy knew this. She had survived as a netrunner by following protocols, by calculating risks, by never letting curiosity override judgment. Yet she stepped through the door. The sensory experience overwhelmed her digital avatar. She felt the grass beneath her feet, smelled earth and flowers, felt a breeze against her skin. This wasn't just visual representation. It was full sensory simulation at a level that shouldn't be possible without hardware far more sophisticated than what she was using. In the center of the field stood a massive tree, its trunk wider than any living tree on Earth, its branches reaching up to create a canopy that seemed to touch the digital sky. At its base sat a figure in meditation, a man with spiky blonde hair wearing what looked like a strange mixture of traditional Japanese clothing and modern tactical gear in orange and black. Lucy approached cautiously, digital weapons at the ready. The figure didn't move, didn't acknowledge her presence until she stood directly before him. Then he opened his eyes, bright blue orbs that occasionally flickered with lines of code, and smiled. "Been a while since anyone made it this far," he said, his voice carrying none of the digital distortion common to avatars. "You're either incredibly skilled or incredibly desperate. Maybe both." Quote. Lucy kept her distance, programs scanning for any sign of attack. "Who are you? What is this place?" The man stood in a fluid motion, stretching as though he'd been sitting for a very long time. Perhaps he had. "Name's Naruto Uzumaki." He grinned, the expression transforming his face from merely handsome to charismatic. "As for what this place is, it's home. A little piece of somewhere else I carried with me." He gestured at the surroundings. "You like it? Took me years to get the smell of the grass right." Lucy remained unmoved by his casual demeanor. "You're an AI." Something like amusement flickered across his features. "Not exactly. Let's just say I'm a visitor who decided to stay." He studied her with unexpected intensity. "You're looking for something specific. Something Arasaka took from you." The accuracy of his assessment unsettled her. "How could you know that?" "Your coding patterns. They have wounds in them, places where something was torn out." He circled her slowly, his gaze analytical rather than predatory. "Soul killer technology leaves distinctive scars in the digital fingerprint of anyone who survives it. Not many do." Lucy's hand instinctively went to her chest, where phantom pain sometimes flared when she dove too deep into the net. "You know about Soul Killer. About what Arasaka did. I know more than most." Naruto's expression darkened. "I've watched Arasaka and corporations like them for longer than you'd believe. They take what doesn't belong to them, lives, memories, souls, and call it progress." Lucy's tactical training screamed that this was too convenient, too perfectly aligned with her objectives. "And I'm supposed to believe you're what? Some kind of digital guardian watching over us all from cyberspace?" Naruto laughed, the sound surprisingly warm in the digital space. "Guardian? No. Just someone who remembers what it means to protect precious people." He extended his hand, a glowing SP. Here of what appeared to be swirling energy materializing above his palm. "I can show you where to find what you're looking for. But you should know, the answers might hurt more than the questions." Lucy stared at the swirling sphere, entranced despite her caution. "What is that?" "Where I come from, we called it a Rasengan, a spiraling sphere. Here, it's a concentrated data visualization algorithm I created. It can reveal patterns hidden in the net's structure." The sphere expanded, transforming into a three-dimensional map of digital pathways. "Your missing memories are here," he indicated a pulsing red node deep in a complex of pathways, heavily guarded, but accessible if you know the right approach. Lucy studied the map with professional assessment. If accurate, it was the most valuable piece of intelligence she'd encountered in years of searching. "Why would you help me?" "Because you made it here on your own merit. Because what was taken from you should be returned." His expression softened slightly. "And because I've been alone in this place for a very long time, watching but never interfering. Maybe it's time I started taking my own advice about not giving up." Before Lucy could respond, alarm signals flashed through her digital sensorium. Something was wrong in the physical world, her body was in danger. "You need to go," Naruto said urgently, the map condensing into a small data sphere that he pressed into her digital hand. Someone's found your physical location. 3 armed intruders, tiger claws by their cyber signatures. How could you possibly know? I'm connected to more systems than you realize. Go. He made a pushing motion with his hands, and Lucy felt herself being pulled backward through digital space at impossible speed, the field and tree. Vanishing as she rocketed back toward her access point. She emerged from the net with a violent gasp, consciousness slamming back into her physical body with jarring force. T-Bug was frantically disconnecting equipment, her normally composed features tight with stress. "We've got company," T-Bug hissed, tossing Lucy her weapon. Tiger claws, heavily armed. They cut through the outer security like it wasn't there. Lucy's mind raced as she disconnected from the netrunning chair. The timing couldn't be coincidence. Either she'd been followed from her meeting with Takamura, or someone had been monitoring the net access and traced her intrusion. "How many?" Lucy demanded, checking her smart pistol's ammunition count. "3 that I've confirmed, possibly more." T-Bug finished wiping the system's memory. "Back exits are best bet." A thunderous crash echoed from the outer chamber, the main door being breached. Lucy and T-Bug exchanged a single glance, years of partnership condensing into an unspoken plan. They moved to defensive positions, Lucy taking cover behind the reinforced netrunning chair while T-Bug activated the emergency countermeasures. The inner door exploded inward, smoke grenades bouncing across the floor. Lucy fired through the smoke, her Kiroshi optics cutting through the visual obstruction to target the first intruder. Her bullets found their mark, sending the man staggering backward with a cry of pain. "The runner's mine," shouted a voice in Japanese. "Take the tech and any data you can salvage." Lucy recognized the voice. Hiroshi Ozawa, a mid-level info RCER for the Tiger Claws known for collecting bounties on high-value targets. She'd crossed his organization 6 months ago during a job for the Mox, but nothing that should have warranted this level of response. T-Bug deployed a localized EMP from her cyberdeck, temporarily disabling the cyberware of the closest attacker. It bought them precious seconds as Lucy fired again, driving the intruders back into the outer chamber. "Exits blocked," T-Bug reported tersely. "They have people positioned outside." Lucy cursed under her breath. Trapped and outnumbered, with unknown forces waiting outside. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. She accessed her internal tactical systems, calculating angles and ammunition requirements. Even with perfect shooting, they were 3 bullets short of neutralizing all confirmed hostiles. "Any suggestions?" T-Bug asked, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Before Lucy could respond, the lights flickered, once, twice, then plunged the room into darkness. For 3 heartbeats, the only illumination came from the red emergency strips along the floor. Then every screen in the room blazed to life simultaneously, displaying the same image, a style IZED spiral pattern with a leaf-like symbol at its center. "What the hell?" T-Bug began. A voice emerged from the speakers, familiar to Lucy though she'd heard it only minutes ago in digital space. "Sorry for the dramatic entrance. Old habits die hard." The air in the center of the room shimmered with blue light, coalescing into a human figure, the same man Lucy had met in the net, his features translucent and glowing but unmistakable. The hologram of Naruto Uzumaki looked around the room with apparent interest. "Nice setup," the hologram commented, as casual as if he were a guest at a party rather than a digital apparition in the middle of a firefight. "But you've got a bit of a pest problem." He turned toward the door where the Tiger Claws were regrouping. "Mind if I help with that?" T-Bug stared in shock. "That's not possible. Holographic projection requires physical emitters. There's nothing in this room that could. I'm borrowing your displays, your speakers, and a boo. T6 different wireless protocols simultaneously," the hologram explained with a grin. "It's actually pretty simple once you figure out how to rewrite radiation patterns on the fly." A burst of ire interrupted the conversation as the Tiger Claws launched a second assault. Bullets passed harmlessly through Naruto's holographic form as he sighed dramatically. "Always the hard way with these types." The hologram turned to Lucy. "I need a more hands-on approach for this. May I?" Before she could ask what he meant, the hologram dissolved into streams of light that raced toward a maintenance android in the corner, a basic model used for cleaning and simple repairs. The machine shuddered as the light enveloped it, its frame contorting and reshaping as though being rebuilt from the inside out. Within seconds, the android had transformed. Where the simplistic maintenance bot had stood, there was now a perfect physical replica of Naruto, still clearly mechanical in nature, but moving with fluid, human-like grace. "Much better," said the android, rolling its shoulders as though testing the body's capabilities. "Been a while since I've needed to do this." The tiger claws burst into the room, weapons raised, and froze at the sight of the transformed android. Their momentary confusion was all the opening Naruto needed. He moved with impossible speed, crossing the room before the attackers could react. His fighting style was unlike anything Lucy had seen, not the programmed efficiency of military combat routines, nor the brutality of street fighting, but something that seemed to flow like water while striking with devastating precision. The first attacker went down with a precisely placed strike to a nerve cluster, his cyberware shorting out from some kind of energy discharge from Naruto's hand. The second managed to fire a burst from his assault rifle, but Naruto was no longer where he had been, appearing behind the man and disabling him with a complex joint lock that wouldn't have been possible with an android's range of motion. The third attacker, Ozawa himself, backed away, switching his weapon to full auto. "What the fuck are you?" Naruto tilted his head, the GE. Stir unnervingly human despite coming from an android body. "I'm the guy asking you to leave these women alone and walk away while you still can." Ozawa snarled and opened fire. Naruto moved in a blur, seemingly anticipating the bullet trajectories before they were fired. He closed the distance between them in a zigzagging pattern that left afterimages in Lucis enhanced vision, then struck with an open-palmed blow that sent Ozawa flying backward without breaking his skin. The tiger claw enforcer slammed into the wall and slumped to the floor, conscious but unable to move. "Pressure point technique," Naruto explained, turning back to Lucy and T-Bug. "He'll be paralyzed for about 20 minutes, which should give us plenty of time to relocate." T-Bug raised her pistol, pointing it directly at the android. "What are you? And don't say, Naruto Uzumaki, like that's supposed to mean something to us." The android raised its hands in a placating gesture. "Fair question. The complex answer involves quantum entanglement, chakra theory, and several dimensional constants that don't translate well to this reality's physics." He grinned, the expression remarkably genuine despite coming from an artificial face. "The simple version: I'm what happens when a shinobi from another world gets caught between dimensions during a war and ends up digitized in your net." Lucy holstered her weapon, though she remained ready to draw it again. "You're the digital sage, the myth that net runners talk about when they're drunk or scared." "I've been called that," Naruto nodded, "though most of the stories are exaggerated. I can't actually predict stock market crashes or make people rich overnight. But you can hijack our systems, transform maintenance androids, and fight like no combat program I've ever seen," T-Bug observed, her analytical mind clearly cataloging everything she was witnessing. "Pretty much." Naruto examined his temporary body with casual interest. "This form's not ideal. The servo motors are basic and the processing capacity is limited. But it'll do for now." He looked back at Lucy. "We should move. The tiger claws sent out a call for reinforcements before I disrupted their communications." Lucy and T-Bug exchanged glances, having one of their silent conversations built on years of partnership. Finally, T-Bug lowered her weapon. "Our secondary safe house is 3 blocks east," she said. "If you're coming with us, you'll need to explain a lot more than you have so far." "Deal." Naruto moved to the emergency exit, his movements becoming more fluid as he apparently adjusted to the android body's limitations. "Though I should warn you, this explanation involves ramen. I think better over ramen." Despite the absurdity of the situation, Lucy found herself fighting back a smile. "You're a digital entity who exists in the net, and you want ramen." "Some things transcend dimensions," Naruto replied with complete seriousness. "Good ramen is one of them." Journey to the safe house required caution and several detours. Night City never truly slept, but the hours before dawn brought out a different breed of predator in the urban jungle. Gangers and scavengers prowled the shadows, while NCPD drones performed their mechanical patrols with algorithmic precision. Naruto moved with a spatial awareness that suggested he could sense danger before it appeared. Several times he altered their course seconds before NCPD patrols rounded corners or surveillance drones passed overhead. When questioned, he merely tapped the side of his head. "I've got access to most of the public surveillance networks," he explained. "And some private ones too. It's like having eyes all over the city." The safe house was a converted storage unit in an industrial complex, anonymous, secure, and connected to the net through carefully disguised channels. Once inside, T-Bug activated the security systems while Lucy performed a thorough sweep for surveillance devices. "Clear," she announced finally. Holstering her weapon, Naruto examined the space with apparent approval. "Nice setup. Faraday shielding in the walls, redundant power systems, 3 separate exit routes." He grinned. "Reminds me of how we used to set up forward bases during missions." "These missions," T-Bug said, setting up her portable workstation, "were they real, or part of whatever digital fantasy you've constructed for yourself?" "Real enough to me." Naruto's expression sobered. "But I understand your skepticism. In your position, I'd probably think I was dealing with a rogue AI with delusions of humanity." Lucy sat across from him, studying his android features. Despite the obviously artificial nature of his temporary body, his expressions carried a nuance and emotional depth that even the most advanced androids typically lacked. "Then convince us," she challenged. "What are you really? And why did you choose to reveal yourself now, after years of being nothing but a net legend?" Naruto was quiet for a moment, as though carefully considering his words. "I came to this world, or this version of reality, about 60 years ago, during what my people called the Fourth Shinobi War. I was fighting an enemy who could manipulate dimensions, and in the final confrontation, something went wrong. Instead of dying, I was fragmented. My body was destroyed, but my consciousness, what my people would call my chakra, was scattered across what you call the net. 60 years ago, the net as we know it barely existed," T-Bug pointed out. "Exactly." Naruto nodded. "I wasn't integrate into your existing systems. I arrived as the foundation was being built. For the first decades, I was barely conscious, just fragments of memory and energy scattered across primitive digital systems. As your technology evolved, those fragments began to recombine. I became more aware, more myself." Lucy leaned forward, intrigued despite her lingering skepticism. "And what exactly were you, in this other reality? A shinobi? What you might call a ninja? A warrior from a village called Konoha?" A fond smile crossed his face. "I was also the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox, a vessel for an ancient being of chakra. I think that's part of why I survived the transition between worlds. Kurama's energy protected me, kept my essence intact even as my physical form was destroyed." "Kurama?" T-Bug questioned. "The Nine Tails. My partner." A shadow of grief passed across Naruto's features. "He didn't make it through with me. At least, not as a separate consciousness. His energy became part of what sustains me here." Lucy studied him with renewed interest. If this was an elaborate deception, it was unlike any she'd encountered. The emotional complexity and consistency of his narrative suggested either truth or a level of programming sophistication beyond anything currently possible. "So you've been watching from inside the net all this time," she said. "Why reveal yourself to me specifically? Why now?" "2 reasons." Naruto held up a finger. "First, you made it into my sanctuary on your own merit. Do you know how rare that is? Thousands of net runners have brushed against the boundaries of my domain. But almost none have the skill or determination to push through." He raised a second finger. "And second, you're hunting for something that matters, not profit or power, but pieces of yourself that were stolen." He leaned forward, his blue eyes intense. "I've watched Night City for decades, seeing the same patterns repeat. Corporations exploiting people, people fighting back or giving in. Power changing hands but the system remaining the same. I've helped where I could, guiding net runners away from deadly ice, occasionally feeding information to those fighting against the worst abuses. But I've never directly intervened until now." "Why not?" T-Bug asked. "Because I didn't know if I should." Naruto's expression was contemplative. "In my world, I never hesitated to jump into a fight if I thought it was right. But here, the rules are different. The enemies aren't as clear. I wasn't sure if revealing myself would do more harm than good. And now you are. Lucis' tone was skeptical. No. Naruto laughed, the sound surprisingly warm from his mechanical body. I'm still not sure. But something a friend once told me keeps coming back. Sometimes you have to jump in and figure out the landing on the way down. A notification blinked in Lucis' HUD, an incoming message on a secure channel. She frowned, accessing the data with a thought. Her expression darkened as she processed the contents. Problem? Chi-Bug asked, immediately alert to the shift in her partner's demeanor. Takamura's dead. Lucis' voice was flat, professional, though a muscle tightened in her jaw. Found in an alley near our meeting point with his cybernetics ripped out. Messages from my fixer. Apparently the Tiger Claws are claiming responsibility, saying it's retribution for selling information to outsiders. That's not right, Naruto said, his head tilted slightly as though listening to something they couldn't hear. Takamura was killed before you met with him. The neural link in his cybernetics show disconnection patterns consistent with death approximately 30 minutes before your scheduled meeting time. Lucy stared at him. How could you possibly know that? IAC assessed the NCPD preliminary autopsy data as soon as you mentioned his name. Naruto's expression was grim. Someone wanted that information in your hands specifically. The man you met wasn't Takamura, he was wearing his face. But the real Takamura was already dead. The implications hit Lucy like a physical blow. It was a setup. They wanted me to access that specific part of the net. Her eyes narrowed as she looked at Naruto. Which leads directly to you. Was that your plan all along? Engineer this whole scenario to make first contact. Naruto's mechanical features showed genuine surprise, followed by understanding. I see why you'd think that, but no. If I'd wanted to make contact, there are simpler ways than orchestrating a murder and a gang hit. His expression grew thoughtful. But someone clearly wanted to establish a connection between us. The question is who, and why. Chi-Bug had already begun running traces on the digital evidence. The shard you received from fake Takamura, what exactly did it contain? Lucy removed the shard from her deck and placed it on the table. Access codes to a supposedly secure Arasaka database. Information about my lost memories from the Soul Killer incident. Naruto extended his hand. May I? After a moment's hesitation, Lucy nodded. Naruto picked up the shard, but instead of inserting it into a conventional port, he simply held it between his palms. The android's eyes glowed brighter as lines of code briefly became visible beneath the synthetic skin of his hands. It's genuine Arasaka code, he announced after a moment. But it's been modified. The access protocols would work, but they'd trigger a trace program once you reached the specified server. Someone wanted to track you all the way to your physical location. Arasaka, Lucy suggested. No. Naruto shook his head. The modifications don't match Arasaka's programming architecture. This is someone else using their systems as bait. The real question, Chi-Bug interjected, is why go through all this trouble? If someone wanted to find Lucy, there are easier methods. They weren't looking for Lucy, Naruto said quietly. They were looking for me. Lucy was just the lure they hoped would draw me out. He looked directly at her. Someone knows about our potential connection and tried to exploit it. Lucy processed this with the rapid efficiency of a mind enhanced for split-second decisions. So I've potentially got Arasaka, the Tiger Claws, and now some unknown third party hunting me. Fantastic. Not just you, Chi-Bug pointed out. All of us now. Naruto stood, moving to the window to look out at the city as dawn began to break over the jagged skyline. I've existed as a legend for decades precisely because it was safer that way. Now that I've manifested physically, taken direct action, that protection is gone. He turned back to face them, his expression resolute. But I'm done hiding. Whatever's coming, we'll face it together. Lucy raised an eyebrow. I don't recall agreeing to a partnership. You need what Arasaka took from you. I need to understand who's hunting us and why. Naruto smiled, the expression transforming his mechani. Cal features into something remarkably human. Besides, you're the first person in this world who's actually seen the real me, not just this temporary body or a digital projection, but me, in my sanctuary. That makes you important. Important how? Lucy challenged. Important enough that I'm offering you something I haven't offered anyone in this world before, a genuine alliance. Naruto held out his hand. I help you recover what was stolen from you, you help me understand who's trying to drag me out of the net and why. Deal. Lucy stared at the extended hand, weighing decades of hard-earned. Caution against the unprecedented opportunity before her. The digital sage was more than a myth, he was a potential ally with capabilities beyond anything she'd encountered. And yet, how do I know I can trust you? She asked finally. You don't. Naruto's honesty was refreshing. Just like I don't know I can trust you. That's what makes it interesting. T-Bug snorted. Interesting is one word for it. After another moment's consideration, Lucy reached out and clasped Naruto's hand. Deal. But at the first sign you're playing me, all bets are off. I wouldn't have it any other way. Naruto grinned. Now, about that ramen I mentioned. As the first light of dawn filtered through Night City's perpetual haze, Lucy found herself in the strangest alliance of her career. The legendar, why digital sage had emerged from myth into reality, and whatever forces had engineered their meeting were still out there, watching and waiting. For the first time in years, the familiar weight of isolation lightened ever so slightly. Whether Naruto Uzumaki was truly what he claimed to be remained to be seen, but one thing was certain, Night City would never be the same again. The digital god had taken physical form, and the City of Dreams would soon learn what it meant when legends walked among them. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Whispers of the Fox. The afterlife stood as a monument to Night City's contradictions, a former mortuary converted into the most prestigious mercenary bar in the city. Its entrance, flanked by hulking bouncers with military-grade implants, led to an interior bathed in blood-red lighting that cast everyone in the same crimson glow regardless of corp status or street cred. Lucy despised the place. This is a mistake, she muttered as she navigated through the crush of bodies. Mercenaries, fixers, and corpo spies congregated in tight clusters, deal-making and backstabbing proceeding with equal enthusiasm. T-Bug, striding confidently beside her, flashed a rare smile. When you're hunting legends, you talk to those who remember when they were just people. 3 days had passed since their encounter with Naruto and the Tiger Claws. 3 days of research, preparation, and increasingly circular arguments about their next move. Lucy had wanted to go directly after her stolen memories at Arasaka. T-Bug had advocated for a more cautious approach, starting with gathering intelligence from Night City's underground information brokers. Naruto had suggested something else entirely. Find rogue amendiers, he'd said, the name carrying unusual weight in his artificial voice. She's been in the game since before the Blackwall came down. If anyone knows something about who might be hunting us, it's her. Now, pushing through the crowd toward the bar's infamous back booth, Lucy wondered if they were walking into another trap. The digital sage had remained frustratingly cryptic about his connection to Night City's most legendary fixer. You sure he's not setting us up? Lucy asked, keeping her voice low. T-Bug shrugged. If he wanted us dead, he could have let the Tiger Claws handle it. A valid point, though it didn't entirely quell Lucy's unease. Naruto had remained at the safe house, his temporary android body too recognizable for a public appearance. Instead, he maintained connection through Lucy's encrypted neural link, a digital passe. Inger observing through her cybernetic eyes. She won't be easily impressed, Naruto's voice murmured through the secure channel. Rogue's seen everything Night City can throw at someone and walked away stronger. Almost sounds like admiration, Lucy thought, knowing Naruto could hear her sub-vocalized response. Respect, he corrected. She survived in a world that chews people up and spits them out. That takes something special. The crowd parted suddenly as they approached the VIP section. Claire, the Afterlife's head bartender, nodded in recognition as they passed. She's expecting you, she said, gesturing toward the rear booth where Night City's queen of fixers held court. Rogue amendiers defied the youth obsession that dominated Night City's culture. Her silver hair was styled in an elegant undercut, contrasting with sharp features that had refused cosmetic smoothing over the decades. Her eyes, enhanced but deliberately visible as such, tracked Lucy and T-Bug's approach with clinical assessment. The netrunner who found a ghost, Rogue greeted them, her voice carrying the slight rasp of authentic age rather than synthetic gravel. Sit, I've cleared 2 minutes for you. Lucy slid into the booth opposite Rogue while T-Bug remained standing, positioned to watch the crowd. Thanks for seeing us. Curiosity, not courtesy. Rogue took a measured sip from a glass containing what appeared to be genuine whiskey, a luxury few in Night City could afford. Word is you stirred up something in the deep net. Something old, something that shouldn't be there. Lucy maintained a neutral expression. Information broker confidentiality doesn't mean much these days. It does when I'm the broker. Rogue's smile never reached her eyes. Tiger Claws put a price on you that's raising eyebrows across town. Arasaka's internal security launched 3 separate search algorithms targeting your digital signature. And most interestingly, she leaned forward slightly, Netwatch just classified you as a potential Black Ice survivor, their code for someone who's encountered something beyond the Blackwall and lived. She's good, Naruto commented in Lucy's head. Always was. I'm flattered by all the attention. Lucy replied evenly, but I came to ask about something specific, the digital sage. Rogue's expression remained impassive, though something flickered briefly in her enhanced eyes. A bedtime story net runners tell each other. A digital guardian angel who guides lost runners home from the brink of cyberdeath. She waved dismissively. Night City runs on myths. They're cheaper than hope. This particular myth saved my life 3 nights ago, Lucy countered. And he mentioned you by name. For a brief moment, Rogue's carefully controlled facade cracked. Surprise followed instantly by suspicion. Elaborate, she commanded, all pretense of disinterest abandoned. He said you've been in the game since before the Blackwall came down. That if anyone would know who might be hunting him, it would be you. Lucy studied Rogue carefully. He called you by name specifically, not your reputation, not your position. You. Rogue was silent for several beats, her gaze distant as though accessing ancient memories. There was something, once, she finally said. During the net crash of 2020. When the old architecture was collapsing and AI were being sealed behind what would become the Blackwall. Her voice lowered. Among the chaos, some net runners reported encountering an entity that didn't behave like the Rogue Ice. Something that helped guide them out safely. Called itself a shinobi, whatever the hell that means. She remembers, Naruto whispered in Lucy's mind, his digital voice carrying an emotional weight Lucy hadn't heard before. This entity, Lucy pressed, did it have a name? Quote, if it did, that information wasn't shared with me. Rogue's composure had returned, her momentary vulnerability locked away again. But I remember Johnny Me. Ntioning something about a blonde kid with whisker marks, who saved his digital ass during a particularly nasty run. She smiled thinly. I assumed it was the drugs talking. Johnny had a vivid imagination when he was high. Johnny Silverhand. T-Bug interjected, naming the legendary rockerboy who had bombed Arasaka Tower decades ago. Rogue's eyes narrowed dangerously. Your 2 minutes are up. If you have something concrete to share about this digital sage, I might be interested. Otherwise, this conversation is over. Lucy made a split-second decision. Naruto, can you do that holographic thing again? Just your face. Nothing dramatic. Asterisk on it, came the immediate response. The air above their table shimmered subtly as a small projection formed, just Naruto's face, rendered in glowing blue light. It's been a long time. Rogue Amendiers, the hologram said softly. You haven't changed much, all things considered. Every muscle in Rogue's body tensed, her hand moving instinctive. Lee toward the weapon concealed under the table before freezing mid-motion. Her eyes widened fractionally, the closest thing to shock her features seemed capable of displaying. You're real, she whispered. The words barely audible over the bar's ambient noise. As real as anything gets in Night City, Naruto's projection replied with a slight smile. Rogue's gaze darted to the nearby patrons, confirming no one had noticed the ethereal display. With practiced ease, she tapped a sequence on her wrist device, enveloping their booth in a privacy field that muffled sound and distorted visual surveillance. My office. Now. The command brooked no argument as she stood. And turn that off before someone notices. The projection dissolved as Rogue led them through a concealed door behind her booth. The short corridor beyond opened into a surprisingly austere office, functional rather than ostentatious, with top-tier security systems visible only to enhanced vision. Once the door sealed behind them, Rogue turned to Lucy with renewed intensity. Explain everything. For the next 20 minutes, Lucy recounted their encounter in the deep net, the Tiger Claw's attack, and Naruto's physical manifestation through the maintenance android. Throughout the explanation, Rogue remained silent, her expression giving nothing away. When Lucy finished, Rogue crossed to her desk and removed an ANC bottle of Japanese whiskey from a hidden compartment. She poured 3 glasses without asking if they wanted any. In 50 years of running Night City's underground, she said, passing the drinks to Lucy and T-Bug, I've learned one fundamental truth. If something seems impossible, you're simply missing information. She raised her glass slightly. So enlighten me. What exactly are you? Air shimmered again as Naruto's full hologram appeared, this time seated casually on the edge of Rogue's desk. That's complicated. Simplify it, Rogue countered, remarkably unfazed by his manifestation. I'm a shinobi from another world who got caught between dimensions during a war, Naruto explained, repeating the abbreviated version he'd given Lucy and T-Bug. Instead of dying, my consciousness, what my people called chakra, was scattered across your net as it was being built. Over decades, I gradually pulled myself back together. Rogue sipped her whiskey, studying the hologram with narrowed eyes. And the part where you can apparently hijack security systems, project yourself anywhere with network access, and transform machines. Is that standard where you come from? No, Naruto admitted. That's an adaptation. In my world, chakra could manipulate physical reality, create fire, move earth, heal wounds. Here, it interacts with digital systems instead. I had to relearn everything. Figure out the rules of this reality. Which explains the legends, T-Bug interjected. Netrunners reporting a guardian entity guiding them safely through dangerous systems. Naruto nodded. I couldn't just watch people die if I could help them. It reminded me too much of home, of what I was supposed to be. A protector, Rogue stated rather than asked, something unreadable passing across her features. Something like that. The hologram's smile held a trace of melancholy. Though I wasn't always great at it. Rogue set down her glass with deliberate precision. Assuming I belie even half of this, and I'm not saying I do, why emerge now? Why risk exposing yourself after decades of operating from the shadows? Because someone's hunting me, Naruto answered. Someone who knows what I am and has the resources to manipulate Arasaka, the Tiger Claws, and probably others. They used Lucy as bait, knowing she was searching for memories Arasaka stole from her. And you took the bait, Rogue observed. I did. Naruto's hologram looked at Lucy. Some things are worth the risk. Something in his tone made Lucy glance away, unexpectedly discomforted by the sincerity in his voice. When she looked back at Rogue, she found the fixer studying her with unexpected intensity. You've stirred up a hornet's nest, Rogue said finally. Netwatch has been monitoring unusual activity in the old net for weeks. Militech's cybersecurity division reactivated dormant protocols from the net crash era. And Arasaka, she paused, choosing her words carefully. Arasaka has been conducting research into what they call non-standard intelligences in the deep net. Entities that don't match known AI patterns. They're looking for me, Naruto concluded. They're looking for something, Rogue corrected. Whether it's you specifically or just anomalies like you is unclear. But they're investing significant resources into the search. T-Bug leaned against the wall, arms crossed. So we have corporations, gangs, and government agencies potentially hunting us. Fantastic. The question, Lucy interjected, is who orchestrated the setup with Takamura? Who has the reach to manipulate all these players? Rogue's expression darkened. In Night City, the list is short but dangerous. My money would be on Netwatch. They've been increasingly desperate to control what comes through the Blackwall since the Alpha incident last year. The what? Lucy asked. Classified to hell and back, Rogue explained. But my sources say something got through from beyond the Blackwall, Somethi. That briefly seized control of Militech's automated defense systems before disappearing. 12 people died before they contained it. Naruto's hologram had gone very still. I felt it, he said quietly. Something wrong. Like oil on water. It didn't belong here, even less than I do. Could it have been from your world? T-Bug asked. No. Naruto's response was immediate and certain. This was something else entirely. Something artificial but hungry. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room as they processed the implications. Finally, Rogue spoke again. Whatever you've stung, bled into goes beyond typical Night City politics. The kind of heat you're attracting. She shook her head slightly. You need more than information. You need resources, allies, and a secure base of operations that isn't a storage unit with secondhand encryption. Lucy raised an eyebrow. Are you offering to help? I'm offering a business proposition, Rogue corrected smoothly. I provide resources and connections. You provide access to something that could reshape Night City's power structures. Standard arrangement. And what do you want in return? Naruto asked, his hologram studying her with surprising perception. Really want, I mean. Rogue met his gaze directly, something almost challenging in her expression. Answers. I've spent 50 years piecing together the true history of this city, the parts corporations bury, the connections they erase. Your existence suggests there's an entire dimension to that history I've been missing. She picked up her glass again, rolling it between her fingers. Knowledge is the only currency that never devalues in Night City. She's not telling us everything, Naruto's voice murmured in Lucy's mind. No one ever does in this city, Lucy replied silently. We accept, Lucy said aloud, extending her hand toward Rogue. Provisional partnership, with information exchange to be negotiated on a case-by-case basis. Smart girl. Rogue clasped Lucy's hand briefly. We start with getting your digital friend a better physical presence than hijacked maintenance bots. I know someone who specializes in custom synthetic bodies, experimental stuff, military grade. Expensive, T-Bug noted. Very. Rogue smiled thinly. Consider it an investment in our partnership. She turned to address Naruto's hologram directly. In the meantime, I need a demonstration of what you can actually do. Legends are impressive. Capabilities are valuable. Naruto's hologram grinned, the expression transforming his features from merely handsome to charismatic. What did you have in mind? Quote, Netwatch maintains a secure database of suspected Blackwall breaches, incidents where entities from beyond attempted to penetrate our side of the net. Rogue activated a holographic display on her desk, showing a heavily fortified digital structure. That database contains everything they know about anomalies like you. If someone is hunting you specifically, there might be information about why. Quote, T-Bug whistled softly as she examined the security protocols displayed. Triple-layered ICE with quantum encryption. Dynamically generated access protocols. Neural scanners that monitor thought patterns during intrusion attempts. She shook her head. That's government-level security. Attempting to breach it would trigger automated countermeasures to fry a netrunner's neural connections. That's why most runners wouldn't attempt it, Rogue agreed. But our friend here isn't most runners, is he? Naruto's hologram studied the schematics with analytical intensity that contrasted with his previously casual demeanor. I can get in, he said after a moment. But I'll need an access point, a direct connection to their network. Already arranged. Rogue tapped her desk, bringing up a new display showing a building schematic. Netwatch maintains a regional processing node in North Oak. Minimal physical security because the digital defenses are supposedly impenetrable. One of my operatives has secured maintenance credentials that will get you into the building's utility level. Lucy examined the plan with professional assessment. We, need a netrunning rig at the location, something clean, untraceable. Being delivered as we speak. Rogue's efficiency was impressive even by Night City standards. You move tonight. If you succeed, I'll know our partnership has potential. If you fail, she shrugged elegantly. Then I've lost nothing but some easily replaced equipment. And we lose what, exactly? T-Bug asked pointedly. Only if you get caught. Rogue's smile was razor thin. Which is why I suggest you don't. As they finalized the operational details, Lucy noticed something unexpected, the way Rogue occasionally glanced at Naruto's hologram when she thought no one was watching. Not with the calculation of a fixer assessing an asset, but with something more complex. Recognition, perhaps, or something dangerously close to nostalgia. She knows more than she's saying, Lucy sub-vocalized to Naruto. Most people do, he responded, his digital voice thoughtful. But I think she's genuinely trying to help, even if her reasons are her own. Asterisk. You trust too easily. Asterisk. And you don't trust enough. We balance each other. Asterisk. The casual observation lingered in Lucy's mind as they left the afterlife, stepping back into Night City's perpetual twilight where corporate advertisements painted the smog in neon colors. Balance wasn't something she'd considered valuable in her line of work. Survival required vigilance, not equilibrium. Yet as they moved through crowded streets toward their next objective, Lucy found herself wondering if perhaps Naruto's perspective, forged in a different world with different rules, HT offers something Night City had systematically stripped from its inhabitants. Hope, perhaps, or something equally dangerous. The North Oak facility resembled a typical corporate data center, a sleek, low-profile building nestled among the mansions of Night City's ultra-wealthy. Its unremarkable exterior concealed one of Netwatch's most secure regional processing nodes, a physical anchor point for their digital surveillance empire. Approach looks clear, T-Bug confirmed through their encrypted channel. She remained at Afterlife, coordinating remotely through systems Rogue had provided. Security drones are following standard patrol patterns. No unexpected personnel on site. Lucy adjusted her maintenance coveralls, the generic uniform completing her disguise as contracted technical staff. Beside her, Naruto occupied a new temporary body, a construction android, borrowed from a nearby development project. The bulky frame lacked the sophistication they hoped to acquire, but it would serve for tonight's operation. "How does it feel?" Lucy asked, watching him test the mechanical limbs. "Like wearing oversized boots," Naruto replied, his voice emanating from the android's basic speaker system. Clumsy, but functional. They approached the facility's service entrance where a solitary guard monitored access through a reinforced checkpoint. Lucy presented the maintenance credentials Rogue had provided, authentic ID for a contractor who was currently enjoying an all-expenses-paid vacation far from Night City. The guard barely glanced at them, his attention divided between multiple security feeds. "Cooling systems on sublevel 2, he said, buzzing them through. "Don't touch anything that isn't on your work order." Once inside, they navigated service corridors seen by the facility's regular employees. The utilitarian spaces contrasted sharply with the polished corporate aesthetics of the upper levels, concrete and exposed conduits replacing glass and chrome. "Perfect," Lucy murmured as they located their target, a maintenance hub connected directly to the building's primary systems. This junction feeds both physical infrastructure and data architecture. While Lucy secured the room, placing discrete signal jammers to prevent surveillance, Naruto connected to the hub through physical ports in his temporary body. His consciousness flowed through the building's systems, mapping digital pathways invisible to conventional scanning. "Found it," he announced after several minutes. "There's a direct connection to their secure network through the environmental control system." Classic backdoor vulnerability. They were so focused on protecting the primary data channels they overlooked the auxiliary systems. Lucy removed a compact netrunning rig from her maintenance case, cutting-edge equipment provided by Rogue. "Once you're in, how long will it take to extract the data?" "Depends on their internal security protocols," Naruto replied. "Their outer defenses are impressive, but I won't know what's waiting inside until I breach them." "T-Bug, are you receiving?" Lucy asked, activating the secure link to their remote support. 5x5, came the immediate response. "I'm monitoring external security. So far you're clear, but be advised, I'm detecting increased data traffic to the facility. Someone's conducting a remote operation on their systems." "Routine or suspicious?" Lucy asked, plugging the netrunning rig into the junction box. "Unknown. Could be standard maintenance, could be them noticing irregularities in the access logs." "Stay frosty." Lucy connected her neural interface to the rig, preparing to provide backup if needed. Unlike conventional netrunning, she wouldn't be fully immersed, maintaining awareness of both physical and digital environments simultaneously. "Ready when you are," she told Naruto. The construction android became utterly still as Naruto's consciousness shifted focus, withdrawing partially from the physical vessel to concentrate on digital infiltration. Through her partial connection to the system, Lucy perceived a shadow of what he was doing, code flowing with organic fluidity, adapting and reshaping itself to slip through security checkpoints that would have incinerated conventional intrusion software. "He's not netrunning," she realized aloud. Not in any way I've seen before. It's like he's swimming through the data. His code signature is unlike anything in my reference database, T-Bug confirmed, her voice carrying professional fascination. It's not registering as an intrusion because the system can't recognize what it is. Like trying to detect water with a metal detector. Lucy watched through her neural interface as Naruto breached the outer defenses, leaving them intact but creating a microscopic passage through their structure, a technique impossible for conventional netrunners who relied on brute force or predefined exploit packages. Once inside, he moved with increasing confidence, navigating the secure database's architecture with intuitive understanding. Lucy glimpsed fragments of the data he was accessing, classified reports on Blackwall breaches, analyses of non-standard digital entities, theoretical models of consciousness transfer across digital boundaries. "I've found something," Naruto's voice echoed through their comm link, though his physical body remained motionless. References to an entity they're calling Anomaly Kyuubi, that first appeared during the net crash. Lucy frowned. Kyuubi, 9 tails. Kurama's title in my world. Emotion colored his digital voice. They've been tracking traces of my activity for decades, cataloging appearances and interventions. They've identified 67 instances where I directly assisted netrunners in danger. That's how they knew to use Lucy as bait, T-Bug concluded. They recognized a pattern of you helping runners in distress. There's more, Naruto continued. Cross-ref. Errances to something called Project Sage, a Militech initiative to capture and analyze non-standard digital entities from beyond the Blackwall. They believe studying these entities could lead to breakthrough technologies in consciousness digitization. Lucy processed this with growing concern. So Militech wants to capture you for research. That tracks with what we know about corporate motivations. Wait, Naruto's voice sharpened. I just found a security directive dated 3 weeks ago. Anomaly Kyuubi has been reclassified from Observe and Report to Immediate Containment Authorized. They've developed some kind of specialized capture program designed to isolate and extract digital entities without destroying them. Can you download the technical specifications? Lucy asked. No. Wing their tools would give us an advantage. Working on it. The files are. Naruto's voice suddenly cut out. Through her neural interface, Lucy saw a cascade of security protocols activating through the system. Not the standard automated responses to intrusion, but something more directed, more intentional. We've got company, she warned. Someone else is in the system, actively responding to Naruto's presence. It's a trap, T-Bug realized. The increased data traffic I detected, they were waiting for him. Lucy deepened her connection to the netrunning rig, pushing her consciousness further into the digital space to provide backup. The sensory experience shifted as her perception expanded, the concrete maintenance room fading as the glowing architecture of Netwatch's secure systems materialized around her. What she saw sent cold dread through her digital avatar. Naruto's presence, visible to her enhanced perception as a swirling vortex of golden energy shot through with patterns-like circuitry, was being systematically surrounded by containment protocols that moved with uncanny coordination. Not automated security, but another consciousness directing the defense. Naruto, she called into the digital void. It's a targeted response. Pull out now. His reply came fragmented, disrupted by interference. Can't. They've established feedback loop, attempting to trace my core consciousness. Lucy pushed deeper, risking greater exposure to deploy countermeasures against the encroaching containment protocols. Her combat software engaged the closest threats, eating momentary disruptions in their formation. But for every breach she created, the opposing force adapted with disturbing speed. Through the chaos, she caught glimpses of the entity coordinating the attack, a presence that felt simultaneously human and not, its movements carrying the precision of AI but the intuitive leaps of organic thought. A netrunner, she realized. An elite runner working with advanced AI support. T-Bug, she called through their connection. We need emergency extraction. Cut power to the maintenance hub if necessary. Working on it, T-Bug replied, her voice distant through the layers of digital interference. But something's blocking my access to the building's systems. Whatever you're facing in there, it has external support. The containment protocols tightened around Naruto's digital form, specialized code designed to isolate and capture rather than destroy. Lucy redoubled her efforts, deploying increasingly aggressive countermeasures despite the rising risk to her own neural pathways. Then, unexpectedly, Naruto's energy signature changed. The swirling golden patterns intensified, shifting from defensive evasion to something else, something T had reminded Lucy of a cornered animal suddenly revealing it had teeth. "Lucy, pull back," his voice came through with newfound clarity. "What I'm about to do isn't safe for connected runners. I'm not leaving you. Trust me." His digital presence expanded suddenly, golden energy radiating outward. "I haven't shown all my cards yet." Lucy hesitated for a crucial moment, professional instinct warring with newly formed trust. Then, making her decision, she initiated a controlled withdrawal, not a full disconnect, but retreating to a safer observational distance within the system. What happened next defied conventional understanding of netrunning physics. Naruto's digital presence exploded outward, not in chaotic fragmentation but in controlled replication. Where there had been one swirling vortex of energy, suddenly there were dozens, each identical to the original, each moving with independent purpose but collective coordination. "Shadow clone jutsu," Lucy heard him whisper through the digital space. The unfamiliar term carrying weight and history she couldn't comprehend. The multiple copies overwhelmed the containment protocols, creating chaos in their carefully orchestrated formation. The opposing netrunner's presence flared with what Lucy interpreted as surprise, perhaps even alarm, as their carefully calculated attack suddenly faced an impossible multiplication of targets. "I found their access point," one of Naruto's copies announced. "Tracing signal to physical location. Got the data we came for," another confirmed, securing the classified files on Project Sage and Anomaly Kyuubi. "Establishing exit route," a third copy declared, carving a path through the destabilized security systems. The coordinated action of multiple independent copies of a single consciousness was unlike anything Lucy had witnessed in the net. It wasn't simply a matter of distributed processing or parallel execution. Each copy seemed to possess the full intelligence and capabilities of the original, yet functioned as parts of a greater whole. The opposing netrunner attempted to adapt, reconfiguring their containment strategy to account for multiple targets. But the sudden shift from hunter to hunted had created fatal hesitation, precious seconds lost that Naruto's copies exploited mercilessly. "Time to go," the primary Naruto called to Lucy. "I've secured what we need." And left them a parting gift they won't appreciate. Lucy followed his guidance back through the system, witnessing as several copies remained behind, engaging the enemy directly to cover their retreat. The sensation was disorienting, watching what appeared to be independent versions of Naruto sacrificing themselves while somehow knowing the core consciousness remained intact. They emerged from T.'s system with a jarring return to physical awareness. Lucy gasped as neural feedback cascaded through her implants, the abrupt transition harsher than standard netrunning disconnects. "We need to move," she managed, disconnecting from the rig with practiced efficiency. Now, the construction android reactivated as Naruto's consciousness fully returned to the physical vessel. "Agreed. They've traced our physical location. Security teams will be here in minutes." They gathered their equipment and moved quickly through the maintenance corridors, abandoning stealth for speed. T-Bug guided the M through an alternative exit route, a service tunnel that connected to adjacent utility systems. "What happened in there?" Lucy demanded as they navigated the narrow passage. "What was that technique?" "Shadow clone jutsu," Naruto explained, his mechanical body moving with surprising agility for its bulky frame. "In my world, it created physical duplicates using chakra. Here, it creates digital copies of my consciousness, temporary but fully functional." "That's impossible," Lucy objected automatically. "Digital consciousness can't be copied without degradation. Even the most advanced AI duplication results in corruption or fragmentation. Chakra doesn't follow the same rules as your technology," Naruto replied simply. "It's energy shaped by will and intent. The clones aren't copies of code. They're extensions of my consciousness given temporary independent existence." Before Lucy could pursue this further, T-Bug's urgent voice cut through their comms. "Emergency exit is compromised. Netwatch Rapid Response Team just deployed from the main building. You need an alternate route." Lucy accessed her HUD's mapping function, scanning for options. "The maintenance tunnel connects to The residential water system for North Oak. If we can reach the main conduit, we can follow it to the reservoir pumping station. That tunnel will be flooded, T-Bug warned. Not a problem for an android body, Naruto pointed out. And I'm guessing Lucy has respiratory implants. She nodded tersely. Militech aquatic package. I can handle underwater operations for up to 15 minutes. The Y located the access point to the water system, a maintenance hatch secured with basic mechanical locks rather than electronic security. Naruto's android body easily broke through, revealing the dark tunnel beyond with water flowing steadily through its lower section. T-Bug, we're going dark, Lucy announced. Water will disrupt communications. Rendezvous at fallback point in 30 minutes. Understood. Be careful down there. I'm detecting unusual movement patterns from the Netwatch team. They're not following standard pursuit protocols. Lucy and Naruto descended into the tunnel, the cold water rising quickly to chest height. The construction android moved ahead, untroubled by the need to breathe, while Lucy activated her respiratory implants. The system extracted oxygen directly from the water, allowing her to submerge completely if necessary. They proceeded in tense silence for several minutes, navigating the dark tunnel by the light of Naruto's android body's built-in work lamps. The steady flow of water created constant resistance, slowing their progress but also covering any noise they might make. They were waiting for us, Lucy said finally, her voice distorted by the respiratory implants processing. That wasn't standard security, it was a targeted operation designed specifically to capture you. Yes, Naruto agreed grimly. And the netrunner coordinating it wasn't standard Netwatch protocol either. They moved with familiarity. Like they recognized what I was. Lucy processed this troubling implication. You think they've encountered something like you before? Or someone briefed them very specifically on what to expect? The android's mechanical features couldn't convey nuanced emotion, but Naruto's voice carried clear concern. The containment protocols were designed for my particular energy signature, not general Blackwall entities. Which means someone who knows exactly what you are is working with Netwatch. Lucy frowned. But who would? Her question was cut short by a sudden change in the water's flow, a surge of pressure from behind that suggested the tunnel's upstream access had been breached. They're flooding the tunnel, Naruto realized. Trying to flush us toward the reservoir where they can intercept us. Lucy checked her mapping display. We're still half a kilometer from the pumping station. If they increase water pressure significantly, we need to find an alternative exit. Naruto scanned the tunnel walls with his enhanced vision. There should be maintenance access points periodically along these main conduits. Emergency exits for workers caught during flooding. They increased their pace, fighting against the strengthening current. Lucy's respiratory implants functioned at maximum capacity as the water level rose, now reaching her shoulders. The construction android forged ahead, searching for any sign of an access point. There, Naruto called, illuminating a maintenance ladder recessed into the tunnel wall. That should lead to a surface access point. Lucy pushed toward the ladder, the current now strong enough to threaten her footing. Naruto's android body provided crucial support, anchoring itself against the flow to create a stable point for her to grasp. You first, he insisted. This body can withstand the pressure longer. Lucy began climbing the ladder, her enhanced muscles straining against the water's resistance. Above, she could make out a circular hatch, likely opening to a maintenance access point on the surface. When she reached the hatch, she found it secured with both mechanical locks and an electronic security system. It's locked down, she called back to Naruto. Security protocol active. Can you hack it? Lucy examined the system with her cybernetic enhancements. Basic Netwatch encryption. Give me a minute. She deployed hacking tools from her wrist-mounted cyberdeck, interfacing with the security system while maintaining her precarious position on the ladder. Below, the water continued to rise as Naruto held position at the ladder's base. Hurry, he urged. They've increased water flow again. This tunnel will be completely flooded in approximately 2 minutes. Lucy worked with practiced precision, bypassing security layers methodically despite the growing pressure. Almost there. Just need to override the final. A warning flashed across her HUD. Proximity alert from her perimeter scanning implants. Something was approaching their position from above. Company, she warned Naruto. Surface-level movement directly above us. Netwatch, he asked. Or worse. Lucy redoubled her efforts on the security system. Got it. The hatch's locking mechanism disengaged with an audible click. Lucy pushed upward, opening the heavy metal cover cautiously to avoid making unnecessary noise. She emerged into what appeared to be a private garden, one of North Oak's exclusive residential properties, judging by the manicured landscaping visible in the dim light. Clear, she whispered down to Naruto. But we're in someone's backyard. Need to move quickly. The construction android climbed the ladder with mechanical efficiency, emerging beside her just as floodlights suddenly illuminated the garden from multiple directions. Lucy's enhanced vision adjusted instantly, revealing armed figures taking position around the perimeter, private security, not Netwatch. Wearing the distinctive armor of corporate contractors. Down, Naruto shouted, shoving Lucy aside as gunfire erupted from multiple positions. Bullets struck his android body, sparks flying as they penetrated the mechanical frame. Despite the damage, he maintained functionality, positioning himself between Lucy and the attackers with deliberate sacrifice. Run, he urged her, his voice distorting as systems failed within the android body. I can transfer consciousness back to the net if this body is destroyed. You can't. Lucy assessed their tactical situation with cold efficiency, surrounded, outgunned, with limited cover in the open garden. Standard survival protocol dictated immediate withdrawal, abandoning compromised assets to preserve critical ones. Instead, she drew her weapon and moved to Naruto's side. I don't abandon partners, she stated flatly, targeting the nearest attacker with precision fire. And I'm not running from rent-a cops with surplus gear. Her first shots found their mark, dropping one security operative with cybernetic precision. The others adjusted their positions, calling coordinates to each other in practiced tactical communication. 8 hostiles, Lucy noted, her implants calculating threat assessments automatically. Military-grade weapons but standard corporate training patterns. Exploitable. Naruto's damaged android body shifted stance, adapting to compensate for failing systems. I can still fight, but mobility is compromised. This body won't last much longer. Then let's make it count. Lucy Octiva, Ted her combat implants, Militech mantis blades extending from her forearms with lethal elegance. Cover me. She moved with augmented speed, her cybernetic enhancements pushing human capabilities to their theoretical limits. The security team, though well-equipped, hadn't anticipated facing a solo with military-grade modifications. Their formation broke as Lucy carved through their perimeter, Tis blades slicing through armor and flesh with equal efficiency. Naruto provided covering fire using the construction android's built-in tools repurposed as weapons. Though clumsy compared to purpose-built combat systems, the industrial equipment proved surprisingly effective when directed by a consciousness that had spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare. The security team regrouped, adapting to the unexpected resistance. Their commander deployed flash grenades, temporarily overwhelming Lucy's visual implants with searing light. She switched to acoustic tracking, letting her auditor Y enhancements guide her movements through the sensory disruption. Lucy, behind you, Naruto warned through their comms. She pivoted on instinct, mantis blades raised defensively as a security operative lunged with a shock baton. The weapons clashed, electricity arcing harmlessly across Lucy's insulated cybernetics. Her counterstrike was ruthlessly efficient, severing the attacker's arm at the elbow before a finishing blow silenced him permanently. Across the garden, Naruto's android body had sustained critical damage, movement now limited to basic functionality. Despite this, he continued engaging multiple attackers, fighting with increasingly desperate creativity as systems failed around him. Lucy fought her way toward him, determined to provide extraction before his temporary vessel was destroyed completely. 3 more security operatives fell to her blades, their expensive equipment offering little protection against precision strikes at vital points. We need to move, she called to Naruto, reaching his position as the remaining security forces regrouped for another assault. This body is finished. The android's vocal systems had failed completely, but Naruto's voice came through their neural link instead. Agreed. But we're still surrounded, and I can't transfer to another vessel from here without a direct connection. Asterisk. Lucy scanned their surroundings, tactical systems analyzing escape options. The property's perimeter wall was visible approximately 50 meters away, beyond it, the relative safety of North Oak's public streets. "Can you manage a sprint to the wall?" she asked, supporting the damaged android as hydraulic fluid leaked from multiple bullet wounds. "One-way trip for this body, but yes." They moved together toward the perimeter, Lucy Praviti covering fire as the remaining security forces pursued. The construction android's movements grew increasingly erratic, systems failing catastrophically with each step. By the time they reached the wall, it was operating on emergency power alone. "I can boost you over," Naruto suggested through their link. "This body has enough strength for one final exertion. And leave you behind." Not happening. Lucy deployed a grappling hook from her cybernetic arm, the titanium cable embedding securely in the wall's upper edge. "We go together." The grappling system began retracting, pulling them upward as the security team opened fire again. Bullets struck around them, one grazing Lucy's leg with burning intensity. The damaged android body provided what protection it could, using its remaining functional arm to shield her from direct fire. They reached the top of the wall as the android's systems finally failed completely, its frame going limp in Lucy's grasp. With one powerful effort, she pulled them both over the edge, dropping to the street below with the inert mechanical body. Connection failing, Naruto's voice came weakly through their neural link. "Need to transfer before complete system shutdown." Lucy quickly assessed their options, spotting a public information terminal across the street, standard Night City infrastructure, connected to the municipal network. There, she decided, dragging the android's remains toward the terminal. Reaching it, she forced open the terminal's maintenance panel and connected cables from the android's neural processor directly to the public system. "Go," she urged Naruto. "Transfer now." She felt his presence fading from their neural link as his consciousness flowed from the destroyed android into the city's network. For several tense moments, there was no response from the terminal, no indication that the transfer had succeeded. Then the screen flickered to life, displaying a simple message: "Made it. Find somewhere safe. Will contact soon." Lucy disconnected the cables and abandoned the android's remains, hearing security teams coordinating search patterns behind her. She melted into the shadows of North Oak's elegant streets, her combat systems still active as she navigated toward their designated extraction point. T-Bug was waiting in an unmarked vehicle at the prearranged location, her expression tense with concern. "What happened?" "I lost contact after you entered the water system." Lucy collapsed into the passenger seat, fatigue finally registering as her combat implants cycled down. Ambush. Netwatch in the system. Private security on the surface. Someone knew exactly what we were after and where we'd be. Naruto. T-Bug asked, accelerating away from North Oak with practiced caution, fast enough to create distance. Not so fast as to attract attention. Transferred consciousness back to the net when his temporary body was destroyed. Lucy closed her eyes briefly, the evening's exertion finally catching up with her enhanced physiology. "But we got what we came for." She tapped her temple, indicating the secured data they'd extracted from Netwatch's systems. Project Sage. Anomaly Kyuubi. EV. Everything they know about Naruto and others like him. Others. T-Bug repeated, her attention divided between driving and this new information. "Apparently our digital friend isn't the only non-standard entity in the net." Lucy grimaced as her implants dispensed localized anesthetic to her injured leg. "And someone is very interested in collecting them all." As they drove through Night City's endless neon twilight, Lucy found herself wondering about the netrunner who had coordinated the attack, the consciousness that had moved with such purpose, such familiarity. Not merely hunting an anomaly, but pursuing something recognized and understood. "Who are you really, Naruto Uzumaki?" she thought to herself. "And who else knows what you are?" The safe house Rogue had provided was Severa. Tiers above their previous arrangements, a secure apartment in Charter Hill, officially registered to a shell corporation with no direct connections to any of them. Its security systems were military grade, the kind normally reserved for corporate executives with legitimate reasons to fear assassination. Lucy sat at the apartment's dedicated netrunning station, her neural implants interfaced directly with a specialized deck designed for deep analysis. T-Bug worked alongside her, processing the stolen data through multiple decryption algorithms. This is significant, T-Bug murmured, her normally composed features showing rare surprise. Netwatch has been tracking anomalous entities in the net for decades, cataloging their appearances, behavioral patterns, interaction with human net runners. Lucy scrolled through classified reports, focusing specifically on references to Anomaly Kyuubi, Netwatch's designation for Naruto. According to this, they first detected his presence during the net crash, initially mistaking him for a rogue AI attempting to escape containment. But they quickly realized he was something else entirely, T-Bug continued, highlighting relevant sections of data. His behavior patterns didn't match AI protocols. He actively assisted human net runners, guiding them safely through collapsing systems, which made him interesting rather than threatening. Lucy frowned thoughtfully. At least initially. The apartment's security system chimed softly, announcing an incoming transmission on their secure channel. The main display activated automatically, Howling Rogue's face, her expression characteristically unreadable. I understand, congratulations are in order, she began without preamble. My sources confirm Netwatch is in complete disarray following your little adventure. Lucy maintained a neutral expression. We encountered unexpected resistance. Your intelligence regarding minimal security was inaccurate. Not inaccurate, outdated. Rogue's subtle emphasis suggested this distinction mattered. Someone upgraded their protocols specifically in anticipation of your visit. The question is who knew you were coming, and how. You're the obvious suspect, T-Bug pointed out bluntly. Rogue's smile was cold and brief. If I wanted to betray you, I wouldn't need elaborate setups involving Netwatch. Night City offers far more efficient methods of disposal. She leaned closer to the camera. Besides, I've just invested considerable resources in your operation. Poor business practice to sabotage one's own investments. Lucy couldn't argue with that logic. Whatever else Rogue might be, she was first and foremost a businesswoman with decades of survival in Night City's cutthroat economy. Then we have a leak somewhere, she concluded. Or someone with surveillance capabilities we haven't accounted for. Both possibilities warrant investigation. Rogue's expression shifted subtly. But first, where is our digital friend? I assume he escaped the ambush. He transferred back to the net when his temporary body was destroyed, Lucy explained. We haven't re-established contact yet. As if summoned by the conversation, the apartment's systems flickered momentarily. Lights dimmed and rose again as holographic projectors activated, materializing Naruto's image in the center of the room. Sorry for the dramatic entrance, his projection said with a sheepish smile. Still working on subtlety, Rogue studied the hologram with undisguised interest. Impressive recovery time. Most entities would need significantly longer to reconstitute after forced transfer under combat conditions. Most entities don't have my experience with getting kicked out of places I'm not supposed to be, Naruto replied with surprising humor considering the circumstances. His holographic gaze shifted to Lucy, something like concern passing across his features. You're injured. Lucy glanced at her leg, where medical synth skin covered the bullet graze. Superficial. Already treated. Still, his expression remained troubled. You took unnecessary risks to extract me. I made a tactical decision to preserve a valuable asset, Lucy corrected. Uncomfortable with the implication of personal concern. Standard procedure. Naruto's smile suggested he wasn't entirely convinced by her professional framing, but he didn't press the issue. Instead, he turned to address the information displayed on their screens. You've been analyzing the Netwatch data, he observed. Find anything useful? Plenty, T-Bug confirmed. Including confirmation that you're not alone. Netwatch has cataloged at least 7 distinct non-standard entities in the net, each with unique signatures and behavioral patterns. This information visibly affected Naruto, his holographic form briefly flickering with what seemed like genuine shock. Others, like me, not exactly like you, Lucy clarified. According to these reports, the other entities exhibit different energy patterns and capabilities. Some appear to be fragments of more complex consciousnesses. Others might be genuinely alien intelligences that entered through the black wall. But none have your level of coherence or ability to interact with physical systems, T-Bug added. You're unique in that regard. Naruto absorbed this with thoughtful silence, his holographic features reflect ing complex emotions that seemed remarkably human for a digital projection. I always wondered if I was truly alone, he said finally. If others might have crossed over somehow during the dimensional disruption. The real question, Rogue interjected, is why Netwatch suddenly escalated from observation to active capture attempts. Something changed recently to make you a priority target. Project Sage, Lucy said, highlighting the relevant files. A joint initiative between Netwatch and Militech to develop technology capable of containing and analyzing non-standard digital entities. According to these files, they made a breakthrough approximately 3 months ago, something called a consciousness containment field, that can isolate and extract digital entities without destroying their core structures. They want to capture you for study, T-Bug concluded. Figure out what makes you tick, then weaponize that knowledge. Naruto's hologram paced across the room, an unnecessary movement for a digital entity, revealing just how deeply he had internalized human mannerisms over his decades in the net. The technology to contain something like me shouldn't be possible with current understanding of digital consciousness, he said, troubled. Unless they had help from someone who already understands what you are, Rogue finished the thought, her expression sharpening. Someone who knows about chakra and how it interacts with digital systems. The implication hung heavy in the room, the possibility that Naruto wasn't the only visitor from his reality, that others might have crossed over with knowledge and intentions far different from his own. There's something else, Lucy said, accessing a heavily encrypted section of the stolen data. References to something called Transcendence Protocol. Details are fragmented, but it appears to be the endgame of Project Sage, not just studying captured entities, but somehow incorporating their unique properties into human consciousness. Digital ascension, T-Bug whispered, the concept clearly disturbing even to her analytical mind. They're trying to create a hybrid state, human minds with the capabilities of digital entities. Core have been chasing digital immortality since the net was created, Rogue noted, though her tone suggested this particular approach was unexplored territory even by Night City's standards. Arasaka has Soulkiller. Militech has their consciousness mapping programs. But this would be something entirely different. It wouldn't work, Naruto stated with certainty. Not the way they think. Chakra isn't just energy or code you can copy. It's life force, soul stuff. You can't just inject it into a human consciousness without fundamental changes to what makes someone human. Since when have corporations cared about preserving humanity? Lucy asked darkly. Transcendence through transformation is the ultimate product, evolve or die, at premium prices. The conversa. Cheon paused as they collectively processed the implications of what they'd discovered. Finally, Rogue spoke again, her tone shifting to practical concerns. Whatever Netwatch and Militech are planning, they now know you're actively working against them. Their next move will be to secure any vulnerable access points, reinforce security around Project Sage, and accelerate their timeline. Her gaze moved between Lucy and Naruto. You need to decide your next step carefully. Running would be the prudent choice, but I suspect that's not on your agenda. Lucy looked at Naruto's hologram, finding I am already watching her with unexpected intensity. Something unspoken passed between them, a recognition that their paths had become irrevocably intertwined, their separate goals now converged into shared purpose. I still need what Arasaka took from me, Lucy said finally. And now we know they're connected to this somehow. The soul killer technology they used on me could be related to what Militech and Netwatch are developing. And I need to know if others from my world are here, Naruto added. If someone who understands chakra is helping develop technology to capture and exploit entities like me, I can't just disappear back into the net and hide. Rogue nodded, apparently satisfied with their responses. Then we proceed as planned. My contact for the synthetic body will be ready Tomo. Experimental tech that should provide a more suitable physical vessel than hijacked maintenance androids. She smiled thinly. In the meantime, I suggest you review the rest of that data carefully. Knowledge rarely expires in value. Even in Night City. After Rogue disconnected, leaving them to their analysis, Lucy noticed Naruto's hologram watching her with unusual hesitation. Something on your mind? She asked directly. I could help you, he offered. With netrunning. What happened today? The techniques I used against Netwatch, I could teach you some of it. Not all of it would translate to human capabilities. But some principles could enhance your existing skills. T-Bug raised an eyebrow. You're offering to train her. In what, exactly? Digital chakra manipulation, Naruto explained. In my world, chakra was physical energy. Here, it manifests as a kind of digital life force. I've spent decades learning how it interacts with your net, how to shape it, direct it. His gaze returned to Lucy. Some of those techniques could be adapted for human net runners with the right neural architecture. And your implants are compatible. I could sense it when we connected during the mission. Lucy considered the offer with professional assessment. Would it increase my effectiveness against corporate security systems? Significantly, Naruto confirmed. Standard IC programs wouldn't recognize the techniques as intrusion attempts because they operate on different principles than conventional hacking. Then I accept. Lucy's decision was immediate and practical. When do we start? Naruto's hologram grinned, the expression transforming his features with surprising warmth. No time like the present. If you're not too tired from, being shot at and nearly drowned. Despite herself, Lucy felt the corner of her mouth twitch upward. I've had worse Tuesdays in Night City. T-Bug rose from her workstation, stretching with deliberate casualness. Quote, I'll continue analyzing the Netwatch data while you two practice chakra. Her tone carried gentle mockery, though without real malice. Just try not to melt our systems with your mystical energy manipulations. As T-Bug withdrew to another room, Lucy settled into the netrunning chair, connecting her neural implants to the specialized deck. So how does this work? Meditation, chanting, secret hand gestures. Naruto laughed, his holographic form taking a seat cross-legged in the air beside her. Nothing that dramatic. In my world, yes, we used hand signs to focus chakra. Here, it's more ABO. Understanding how your consciousness interfaces with digital space. His expression became more serious, focused. Close your eyes. I'll establish a direct neural connection, safer than trying to guide you through verbal instructions. Lucy hesitated briefly. Allowing direct neural access was an intimacy rarely granted even among trusted partners. But her practical nature recognized the efficiency of the approach. She closed her eyes, adjusting her implant settings to accept the connection. The sensation was unlike any netrunning experience she'd encountered before. Rather than the sudden immersion of standard diving, this was a gradual expansion of awareness, as though her consciousness was gently unfurling beyond the confines of her physical form. When she opened her digital eyes, she found herself standing not in conventional net space but in the same serene field she'd first encountered in Naruto's sanctuary. The massive tree dominated the center of the space, its branches creating patterns against the clear blue sky. Naruto stood before her, no longer a hologram but a fully realized figure in this shared digital space. Welcome back, he greeted her with a slight smile. I thought familiar surroundings might make this easier. Lucy looked down at her digital self, a perfect recreation of her physical form, though with subtle differences. Patterns of energy seemed to flow just beneath her skin, visible when she moved in certain ways. What am I seeing? She asked, examining her hands as light shifted beneath the surface. Your digital chakra signature, Naruto explained, stepping closer. Everyone who enters the net carries a unique energy pattern. Most netrunners never learn to perceive it, let alone manipulate it. He extended his hand, palm up, where a small sphere of swirling energy materialized. This is the basic form, concentrated digital life force shaped by conscious intent. Lucy watched with professional fascination as the sphere rotated, intricate patterns forming and dissolving within its structure. And you believe I can learn to create something similar? I know you can. Naruto's confidence was absolute. I sensed your potential the first time you entered my sanctuary. Your neural architecture is remarkably adaptable. You've already begun intuitive chakra manipulation without realizing it. When? Lucy asked, skeptical. During the Netwatch infiltration. When you provided backup as I was being contained, the countermeasures you deployed weren't standard netrunner techniques. They carried traces of chakra influence. His expression was encouraging. You've already taken the first steps. Now we just need to make you conscious of what you're doing. For the next several hours, Lucy remained in the digital training space, learning principles and techniques that defied conventional netrunning methodology. Naruto proved to be a surprisingly patient teacher, adapting his instructions to match her analytical approach to learning. He taught her to perceive the flow of energy within digital systems, not merely as data streams and protocols, but as living currents with patterns and rhythms. He demonstrated techniques for moving through secured systems by harmonizing with these currents rather than forcing access through brute computational power. Traditional netrunning treats the net as a constructed space to be hacked and manipulated. He explained as they stood before a simulated security system. This approach recognizes it as an ecosystem to be understood and navigated. Lucy absorbed the lessons with increasing fascination, her analytical mind finding unexpected parallels between Naruto's chakra techniques and advanced netrunning theories that had always remained theoretical rather than practical. It's like the quantum tunneling approach Thompson proposed, she realized as she successfully passed through a security barrier without triggering alerts. But his models never worked in practice because they lacked this. She gestured to the energy flowing around her digital form. Naruto nodded, pleased by her understanding. Exactly. Your theorists have glimpsed pieces of the underlying reality, without comprehending the energy that makes it possible. As the training progressed, Lucy found herself adapting with unexpected speed, her netrunner's instincts merging with these new principles. To create something neither fully traditional nor purely chakra-based. A hybrid approach unique to her neural architecture and experience. Finally, Naruto called a halt to the session, the simulated environment beginning to fade around them. That's enough for now, he said, his expression reflecting genuine respect for her progress. Pushing too far too quickly can strain neural pathways. We'll continue tomorrow. As Lucy prepared to disconnect, a question that had been forming throughout their session finally crystallized. Why are you doing this? She asked directly. Teaching me techniques that give me access to your sanctuary, your methods. Isn't that a security risk for you? Naruto was quiet for a moment, considering his response with unexpected seriousness. In my world, strength came from bonds between people, from trust and shared purpose. I spent decades in the net observing but rarely connecting, watching Night City from a distance. His eyes met hers with surprising intensity. I'm tired of watching. If I'm going to face whatever's coming, I'd rather do it with allies I've invested in, not assets I've manipulated. The honesty in his response was disarming, devoid of the calculated self-interest that dominated most relationships in Night City. Lucy found herself momentarily at a loss for an appropriate response. Pragmatic, she finally said, defaulting to the language of utility she understood best. Shared capabilities increase our collective effectiveness. Naruto smiled slightly, as though seeing through her deliberate distancing. Exactly. Purely practical considerations. His expression softened. See you on the other side. The digital training space dissolved as Lucy returned to physical awareness, the transition smoother than conventional netrunning disconnects. She opened her eyes to find the apartment bathed in early morning light. Hours had passed in what had seemed like minutes in the digital realm. T-Bug stood nearby, offering a container of synthetic coffee. Productive session? She asked, her tone carefully neutral though her expression suggested curiosity. Lucy accepted the coffee, taking a moment to assess the experience objectively. Very, she finally responded. His techniques are unconventional but effective. I'll need to integrate them with standard protocols, but the potential applications are significant. T-Bug's noncommittal response carried in spoken observations about more than just netrunning techniques. Robe called while you were under. The new body will be ready this evening, apparently fabrication process requires less time than anticipated. Lucy nodded, grateful for the shift to practical matters. Good. We need mobility and independent operation capability if we're going to RSUE both Arasaka and Project Sage simultaneously. Naruto's hologram materialized nearby, his projection substantially more detailed than previous manifestations, evidence of his growing comfort with their systems. The new body should allow for more effective field operations, he agreed. But we should discuss our next steps carefully. Netwatch will be expecting us to target their main project, Sage facility after extracting their data. Which means we do something entirely different, Lucy concluded, strategic options already forming in her mind. We need to approach this asymmetrically, target something they won't expect while gathering more intelligence about the key players. I might have something, T-Bug interjected, bringing up a data display. While analyzing the Netwatch files, I found references to a corporate researcher named Drive Hana Kimura, former Arasaka neurosurgeon who defected to Militech 3 years ago. According to these reports, she's one of the primary archite CTS of the consciousness containment field technology used in Project Sage. Lucy studied the information with growing interest, and her expertise in soul killer technology from Arasaka would explain the connection to my missing memories. Quote, precisely. T-Bug highlighted additional data points. Dr. Kimura is scheduled to attend a private technological showcase at the Konpeki Plaza tomorrow evening. An exclusive event for potential investors in emerging consciousness technology. Sounds like our next target, Lucy decided, the outline of a plan already taking shape in her mind. We infiltrate the showcase, extract information from Kimura directly, and potentially identify who's backing Project Sage beyond the official corporate channels. Naruto's hologram moved closer, examining the facility schematics T-Bug had obtained. Konpeki Plaza has state-of-the-art security, not just electronic but physical. Even with a new body, direct confrontation would be risky. Who said anything about confrontation? Lucy smiled thinly. We'll be attending as guests. Legitimate ones. T-Bug raised an eyebrow. That would require high-level corporate credentials. Even I can't fabricate those convincingly enough to pass Arasaka grade biometric verification. We won't need to. Lucy accessed her secure communications channel, composing a message with swift efficiency. I have a contact WHO owes me a favor, a fixer who specializes in corporate infiltration. He can secure us legitimate invitations through one of his client corporations. As Lucy finalized the arrangements, she became awe of Naruto watching her with that same thoughtful intensity she'd noticed during their training session. Something about his gaze made her uncomfortably conscious of her own actions, as though saying, herself reflected through unfamiliar perspective. What? She finally asked, mildly defensive. Nothing, he replied, though his expression suggested otherwise. Just appreciating your approach. In my world, we called it looking underneath the underneath, seeing beyond the obvious to find the true path forward. The observation struck Lucy as unexpectedly perceptive, recognition of a methodo-logical similarity she hadn't considered before. Practical problem solving transcends dimensional boundaries, apparently. Some things are universal, Naruto agreed with a slight smile. The techniques may change, but the fundamentals remain. Find the hidden path. Protect your precious people. Never give up. Precious people, Lucy repeated, the concept sounding foreign in Night City's context. Of transactional relationships and strategic alliances. Is that what we are? Naruto's hologram flickered briefly, as though the question had caused some unexpected fluctuation in his digital presence. You took bullets for me, dragged a broken android through enemy territory, and connected me to safety when you could have simply cut losses and disappeared. His blue eyes met hers with uncomfortable directness. In my experience, that makes you something more than just a tactical partner. Before Lucy could formulate a response to this unsettlingly earnest assessment, T-Bug mercifully interrupted. Rogue's on the line. She wants an update on our plans for the Konpeki infiltration. Lucy turned away from Naruto's hologram, grateful for the excuse to refocus on operational matters. As she briefed Rogue on their developing strategy, she pushed aside the uncomfortable awareness that something fundamental was shifting in her carefully maintained professional distance. Night City had taught her the value of emotional insulation. Connections were vulnerabilities to be exploited, attachments were liabilities that compromised judgment. Yet something about Naruto's perspective challenged these axioms she'd lived by for years. Precious people, she thought again, the concept simultaneously foreign and familiar. Like netrunning through chakra techniques, it represented an approach she recognized but hadn't fully integrated into her understanding of how the world operated. As the morning light strengthened across Night City's jagged skyline, Lucy wondered if perhaps she was learning more than just digital techniques from the digital sage, and whether that education might prove more transformative than either of them anticipated. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Parallel Processing. On painted Night City's eastern districts in amber and gold, the light filtering through perpetual smog to cast long shadows across Konpeki Plaza's elegantly curved architecture. From their vantage point in an unmarked AV parked on a nearby rooftop, Lucy studied the building through enhanced optics, mapping approach vectors and security patterns with methodical precision. 16 Arasaka guards visible on external patrol. 4 automated turret systems. Drones on randomized flight paths. Her voice carried the flat affect of someone simultaneously processing multiple data streams. And those are just the security measures they want us to see. Beside her, T-Bug manipulated a complex 3-dimensional schematic, highlighting concealed systems invisible to conventional scanning. Internal security includes pressure-sensitive flooring, pheromone detectors, and networked optical scanners running continuous facial recognition. Konpeki doesn't just want to keep people out, it wants to know exactly who's inside at all times. Naruto observed their preparations from a newly fabricated body, a significant upgrade from the construction android they'd abandoned in North Oak. This synthetic form approximated human appearance with uncanny precision, its design balanced between authenticity and functionality. Artificial skin with embedded sensory receptors covered a frame of carbon fiber composites and titanium alloys. Unlike crude commercial models, this body had been created specifically for him by Rogue's mysterious contact. Impressive security, he acknowledged, flexing synthetic fingers to test their responsiveness. Though most of it seems designed to catch conventional intruders, not whatever we are. Lucy glanced at him, momentarily distracted from her tactical assessment. Even after 3 days of working together, she found herself occasionally startled by his physical presence. The synthetic body moved with fluid naturalness that standard androids couldn't match. BTLE micro-expressions and unconscious mannerisms that suggested genuine humanity rather than programmed simulation. The showcase begins at 2000, she reminded them, refocusing on the operation. Oh, our contact will meet us at the service entrance at 1930 with credentials and final instructions. T-Bug closed the security schematic with a dismissive gesture. Meanwhile, we have another priority to address. Rogue's intelligence suggests Arasaka's security teams are converging on the Badlands, specifically targeting nomad groups with advanced technical capabilities. The Aldecaldos, Naruto concluded. They're known for salvaging and repurposing corporate tech. And they're directly in Arasaka's crosshairs now, T-Bug confirmed. Apparently, someone matching your digital signature was detected accessing their technical database 3 days ago. Her expression shifted to pointed accusation. Something you neglected to mention. Naruto at least had the grace to appear mildly contrite. I was researching potential allies with the technical expertise to help develop more sustainable physical vessels. The Aldecaldos have some of the most innovative tech specialists outside corporate control. Lucy's eyes narrowed. So you compromised their security while researching bodies for yourself? Not intentionally, he protested. I was careful to mask my presence, but... He frowned, genuine concern replacing his defensive posture. If Arasaka detected me, they might hold the Aldecaldos responsible for harboring digital contraband. Which would justify a corporate raid under the Technology Protection Act. T-Bug finished grimly. Lucy processed this development with cold efficiency, rearranging tactical priorities in her mind. Konpeki can wait. If Arasaka's moving against the Aldecaldos, we need to warn them, both for their safety and to prevent potential allies from being eliminated. I have a contact among them, Naruto offered, surprising both women. A netrunner named Panam Palmer. She's not technically Aldecaldo leadership, but she has significant influence within the clan. Another one of your rescued netrunners? Lucy asked, something unexpectedly sharp in her tone. Naruto shook his head. Not exactly. She encountered one of my digital sanctuaries while escaping corporate hunters in the net. Recognized what I was, or at least that I wasn't simply an AI. We've had occasional contact since then, though she doesn't know the full extent of my situation. Lucy absorbed this information with careful neutrality, though something uncomfortable twisted briefly in her chest, an emotional response she promptly filed away for later analysis. Then she's our entry point. Contact her, arrange a meeting. Already done, Naruto replied, tapping his temple. Eware optical data flickered briefly beneath synthetic skin. She's agreed to meet us at a neutral location in the Badlands, a refueling station near the eastern border of the Nusa territories. TB.UG began shutting down their surveillance equipment with practiced efficiency. I'll coordinate from here. 3 unknown faces appearing together would attract unnecessary attention. Lucy nodded agreement, gathering her essential gear with minimal movement, the economy of motion that marked experienced operatives. We leave in 15 minutes. Night City to Badlands transition requires security protocol adjustments. As they prepared for departure, Lucy found herself studying Naruto's synthetic features, searching for indications that this Pan Am Palmer represented something more significant than a tactical contact. His expression revealed nothing beyond professional focus, yet Lucy's instincts, honed through years of reading people whose implants masked standard physiological tells, suggested complexities left unspoken. You mentioned she recognized what you were, Lucy said carefully, testing waters whose depths remained uncertain. That's rare, isn't it? Naruto paused, something flashing briefly across his artificial features, a micro-expression the synthetic body replicated with surprising fidelity. Very. Most net runners who encounter my sanctuaries interpret them as Eliber. 8 security systems are dormant AI constructs. Pan Am saw something different. What exactly? Lucy pressed, maintaining a tone of tactical interest rather than personal curiosity. She called me a digital coyote, a trickster spirit guiding travelers through dangerous territories. A smile touched his lips, subtle but genuine. Said I reminded her of the stories her grandfather used to tell around nomad campfires. Not exactly accurate, but closer than most get. Lucy processed this information with the same methodical thoroughness she applied to tactical assessments, though the conclusions remained frustratingly ambiguous. And you trust her judgment? I trust her intentions, Naruto clarified. The Aldecaldos follow a different code than Night City: family, freedom, mutual protection. If Arasaka's targeting them because of me, they deserve both warning and assistance. The logic was sound, which somehow made Lucy's unexamined discomfort more rather than less pronounced. She nodded once, decisive. Then we move now. Badlands transport protocols in effect. The transition from Night City's dense urban sprawl to the Badlands, rugged expanses always struck Lucy as passage between different worlds rather than mere geographical shift. Behind them, megabuildings stabbed skyward like monolithic tombstones marking civilization's grave. Ahead, drought-scarred plains stretched toward distant mountains. The landscape dotted with industrial ruins and nomad encampments, physical embodiments of corporate expansion's aftermath. They traveled in a modified Thornton Colby, Unremarka. BLE exterior concealing military-grade armor and custom engine modifications. Lucy drove with the mechanical precision of someone whose reflexes operated partially through cybernetic enhancement, while Naruto sat beside her. Synthetic body perfectly still except for occasional glances at the passing landscape. You've been quiet, he observed after 20 minutes of silence. Lucy kept her eyes on the cracked asphalt stretching before them, focusing on driving on this empty road, with your reaction implants. His tone carried gentle skepticism rather than challenge. Something's bothering you. Is it the Konpeki operation being delayed? The mission parameters have adjusted. I've adjusted with them. Her response came automatically, professional and detached. Tactical flexibility is essential to operational success. Naruto was quiet for a moment, his newly acquired body allowing for expressions too subtle for standard androids, a faint furrow between synthetic brows, a slight compression of artificial lips. In my experience, people who respond with textbook precision are usually avoiding something. Lucy's hands tightened fractionally on the steering wheel, the only external sign of internal recalibration. We've known each other less than a week. That's insufficient time to establish reliable behavioral baselines. Maybe. He turned to look at the passing landscape, voice softening. Or maybe some patterns transcend dimensional boundaries. The observation hung between them, neither acknowledged nor dismissed as Lucy guided the vehicle deeper into Badlands territory. Dust clouds rose behind them, temporary markers of their passage in a land where impermanence defined existence. After another stretch of silence, Naruto spoke again, his tone conversational rather than probing. The Badlands remind me of home, in some ways. Not my village. We had forests, rivers, growing things. But there were places between nations, territories unclaimed by Greater Poe. RS where people lived by their own rules. His synthetic features animated with something like nostalgia. Nomads aren't so different from some clans I knew, family bonds stronger than political allegiances. Technical skills passed through generations, always moving to stay free. Lucy found herself unexpectedly curious despite her professional compartmentalization. Your world had corporations too. Not like yours. He shook his head. We had nations, hidden villages with military power, complex political alliances. But nothing like your Zaibatsus with their private armies and territorial sovereignty. Hidden villages, Lucy repeated, the concept seeming simultaneously primitive and exotic. With electricity, technology. Naruto laughed, the sound remarkably natural from his synthetic voice box. Some, yes, though different from yours. We had hospitals with advanced medical equipment, communication systems, even computers, though nothing like your net. But our real technology was chakra, energy that could heal wounds. Create illusions, even reshape physical reality. Like your shadow clones, Lucy recalled, remembering the multiplication of his digital presence during their Netwatch encounter. Exactly, he nodded, pleased by her understanding. In my world, I could create physical duplicates of myself, independent bodies sharing a connected consciousness. Here, the principle translated to digital space instead. The terrain grew increasingly rugged as they approached the meeting coordinates, forcing Lucy to navigate carefully around debris fields and collapsed infrastructure. The refueling station appeared on the horizon, a cluster of weathered buildings surrounded by salvaged solar arrays and wind turbines, the independent power generation typical of Badlands outposts beyond corporate energy grids. We're approaching the rendezvous point, Lucy noted, activating passive scanning systems to assess potential threats. Any specific protocols I should be aware of when meeting your nomad contact? With Panam, directness and honesty, Naruto's advice came without hesitation. Nomads in general and Panam specifically value straightforward communication. Core, parade double talk and Night City manipulation tactics will just make her suspicious. Lucy processed this with professional detachment, adjusting her planned approach accordingly. Understood. Direct T communication established as primary protocol. Naruto gave her a sidelong glance that suggested her response had inadvertently proven his earlier point about textbook precision, but he refrained from commenting further. The refueling station bustled with activity despite its remote location, various nomad vehicles undergoing repairs, small groups engaged in trading, the organized chaos of frontier commerce. Lucy parked at a designated distance, applying standard security measures before they exited the vehicle. She's here, Naruto said, his synthetic eyes focusing on a woman leaning Agai. NST, a heavily modified Thornton Mackinac at the station's perimeter. Lucy assessed the nomad through enhanced vision, mid-20s, athletic build beneath practical desert clothing, multiple visible weapons complemented by the outline of concealed ones her scanning detected. The woman's posture projected casual confidence, though Lucy noted the subtle positioning that provided optimal situational awareness and tactical advantage if trouble arrived. As they approached, Panam Palmer straightened, dark eyes quickly assessing them both before settling on Naruto with clear recognition despite his synthetic body. Well, she called, voice carrying the distinctive accent of someone raised in nomad caravans rather than corporate enclaves. When my digital coyote said he needed a meeting, I wasn't expecting him to show up in person, especially not in corpo synth flesh. Her gaze shifted to Lucy, sharpening with professional assessment. And with Night City Company, no less. It's still me, Naruto confirmed, spreading his hands in a gesture of transparency. Just with a temporary physical form. Panam circled him slowly, examining the synthetic body with technical appreciation rather than suspicion. Military-grade musculature simulation, carbon fiber skeletal structure, third-generation synthetic skin with enhanced tactile receptors. She whistled softly. Someone spent serious eddies on this shell. Definitely not standard market tech. We have mutual friends with resources, Lucy interjected, maintaining the directness Naruto had advised. And mutual enemies with immediate concerns for the Aldecaldos. Panam's expression shifted instantly from technical curiosity to protective alertness. What kind of concerns? Arasaka security forces mobilizing for Badlands deployment. Lucy explained without preamble, specifically targeting nomad groups with advanced technical capabilities and suspected possession of digital contraband, their classification for non-standard net entities. Understanding dawned in Panam's eyes as she turned back to Naruto. They tracked you to our networks. 3 days ago, he confirmed grimly. I accessed your technical database researching synthetic body development. Thought my presence was masked, but apparently not well enough. Rather than the recrimination Lucy might have expected, Panam's response was pragmatic and immediate. How much time do we have? Unknown, Lucy answered, but Arasaka tactical deployments typically follow accelerated timetables once approved. Hours rather than days. Panam nodded once, decision made. Then we move now. Follow me back to the camp, you'll brief Saul and the council directly. She glanced at their vehicle. Your ride city secure, military-grade countermeasures against tracking and surveillance. Lucy confirmed, but visible as outsider tech. Leave it, you'll ride with me, less conspicuous entering camp that way. Panam was already moving toward her vehicle, the say. Amless shift from assessment to action marking her as someone accustomed to crisis response. Lucy hesitated fractionally, the prospect of abandoning their secure transport triggering professional caution. Naruto noticed her reluctance immediately. We can trust her, he said quietly. Panam values freedom above all else, her own and her family's. She wouldn't risk either by betraying us. After a moment's calculation, Lucy nodded acceptance. She transferred essential equipment to a compact shoulder bag, activated the vehicle's autonomous security protocols, and followed Naruto toward Panam's waiting transport. The Nomad's vehicle reflected its owner's priorities, function over form, durability over aesthetics, yet with unmistakable personal touches in the custom dashboard modifications. ND hand-woven textiles covering utilitarian seats. Lucy noted the various technical adaptations with professional appreciation. Environmental shields, reinforced suspension for rough terrain, concealed weapons systems integrated seamlessly into the chassis design. Impressive vehicle, she acknowledged as they settled inside, Panam taking the driver's position while Naruto sat beside her. Lucy paused, positioning herself in the rear with optimal visibility of both companions and external surroundings. Built her myself, Panam replied with unmistakable pride, hands moving across the ignition sequence with practiced familiarity. Salvaged the chassis from a Corpo transport wreck, rebuilt the engine with parts from 3 different vehicles, and added some proprietary Aldecaldo modifications. The engine roared to life with surprising quietness given its evident power. She'll outrun anything Arasaka sends our way if it comes to that. As they accelerated away from the refueling station, following unmarked trails across the Badlands terrain, Lucy observed the easy familiarity between Panam and Naruto, a comfortable rapport suggesting their previous interactions extended beyond mere professional contact. So, Panam began once they were well underway, you finally managed physical manifestation. Been working on that problem for what, 2 years now? 2 years, 4 months, and 17 days. Naruto confirmed with a slight smile. Though this body is temporary, borrowed tech rather than sustainable solution. Which explains why you were poking around our technical database. Panam nodded understanding. Looking for Aldecaldo biotech research on synthetic nervous systems, I'm guessing. Among other things, Naruto agreed. Your clan's innovations in bridging digital and biological systems are unmatched outside corporate R&D divisions. Lucy found herself reassessing her initial impressions of the nomad woman. Clearly, Panam possessed technical knowledge and insight beyond what her frontier appearance might suggest. You're a netrunner, she asked directly. Panam glanced at her through the rearview mirror, something like amusement flickering across her features. When necessary. Among the Aldecaldos, we don't specialize quite like city folk do. Everyone learns multiple skills: driving, fighting, fixing, running the net. Survival depends on versatility. Panam's being modest, Naruto interjected. She's one of the most innovative net runners I've encountered, approaches problems differently than corporate-trained specialists. Nomad thinking, Panam explained, with a shrug that didn't quite disguise her pride at his compliment. When you can't brute force solutions with expensive tech, you learn to find paths others miss. The landscape changed subtly as they traveled deeper into Aldecaldo territory. evidence of deliberate environmental modification appearing in strategically placed wind barriers, moisture collection systems, and camouflaged surveyance. CE equipment disguised as natural formations. Lucy noted these defensive measures with professional appreciation, recognizing the sophisticated security underlying apparent simplicity. You've fortified your approach vectors, she observed. Layered defenses disguised as environmental adaptation. Panam's expression revealed mild surprise at Lucy's perception. Most city folk don't notice. Too accustomed to obvious security, walls, guards, automated systems. I'm not most city folk. Clearly, Panam's assessment carried neither judgment nor acceptance, merely observation. Military background. Something like that, Lucy answered noncommittally. Panam didn't press further, respecting the boundaries of Lucy's disclosure, another nomad trait that contrasted sharply with Night City's N-formation economy where personal history represented exploitable leverage. The Aldecaldo camp appeared gradually, first as scattered sensor arrays disguised as rock formations, then as perimeter vehi. Clee's position for both defense and quick evacuation, finally revealing the central encampment nestled within a natural basin that provided protection from both elements and surveillance. Unlike the chaotic sprawl Lucy had expected, the nomad settlement displayed organized efficiency, portable structures arranged in concentric circles around central community spaces, vehicles positioned for optimal access. Technical infrastructure integrated with environmental features. Solar arrays and wind turbines generated power, while water reclamation systems maintained precious resources in the arid landscape. Panam guided her vehicle through the outer security perimeter, exchanging recognition signals with guards who allowed them passage with minimal delay. She parked near what appeared to be a Command Center, a larger structure reinforced against both environmental and tactical threats. Saul will be inside, she explained as they exited the vehicle. He's the clan leader, though we operate by council for major decisions. If Arasaka's coming, he needs to hear directly from both of you. As they crossed the camp toward the command center, Lucy observed the community's reaction to their recent, cautious assessment rather than hostility, but clear recognition of outsiders in their midst. Children were discreetly moved toward protective structures, while adults shifted to positions offering better defensive coverage. They're prepared for trouble, Lucy noted quietly. Evacuation protocols already in preliminary stages. Panam nodded. Aldecaldos survive by anticipating threats before they materialize. We noted unusual flight patterns yesterday, reconnaissance drones disguised as weather monitors. Saul ordered preparation for possible relocation, though we didn't know the specific threat. Inside the command center, they found several people gathered around a holographic display showing topographical maps of surrounding territories. A man with weathered features and calculated authority in his stance looked up at their entrance, his expression shifting from concentration to guarded assessment. Panam, he acknowledged, gaze moving immediately to the strangers. These the outsiders your message mentioned. This is Naruto and Lucy, Panam confirmed, her tone reflecting respect without subservience. They've brought intelligence about imminent Arasaka operations targeting our clan specifically. Saul straightened, displeasure evident in his posture though his voice remained measured. We agreed outside connections required council approval, especially those involving corporations. They're not corporate, Panam countered firmly. And the intelligence couldn't wait for council debates. Before the potential conflict could escalate, Naruto stepped forward, his synthetic body's movements carrying unusual grace. The responsibility is mine, not Panam's, he stated directly. I accessed your technical database 3 days ago, researching synthetic body development. Despite security precautions, Arasaka detected the intrusion and traced it to Aldecaldo networks. Saul's eyes narrowed, reassessing the synthetic body before him with new understanding. You're the Netrunner Panam calls her digital coyote. I am, Naruto confirmed. Though, Netrunner isn't precisely accurate. My existence is somewhat complicated. Explain complicated, Saul demanded. Though without hostility, the pragmatic request of someone who needed accurate information regardless of its strangeness. Lucy recognized the critical juncture this represented. Naruto's full nature remained classified information with significant security implications. Yet Naruto had already stressed the Aldecaldo's value of directness and honesty. She watched, curious how he would navigate this tension. I exist primarily as a digital consciousness in what you call the net, Naruto explained, choosing his words with careful precision. Not AI, not uploaded human mind, but something else entirely, a visitor from another reality who arrived during the net crash decades ago. Rather than dismissing this extraordinary claim, Saul listened with the careful attention of someone accused to evaluating information based on practical implications rather than conventional believability. And Arasaka wants you because my unique composition offers technological advantages they wish to study and exploit. Naruto continued. They've partnered with Militech and Netwatch in a classified initiative called Project Sage, developing methods to capture and analyze non-standard digital entities. Saul processed this with remarkable equanimity, turning to Lucy. You're his associate, also digital, fully human, Lucy clarified. Independent contractor with relevant expertise and mutual interests. Meaning you're both targets of whatever's coming our way, Saul concluded, tactical implications immediately prioritized over metaphysical curiosities. He turned to the others gathered around the map display. Mitch, accelerate evacuation preparations. Cassidy, deploy additional perimeter sensors on eastern approaches. Bob, prepare defensive countermeasures, non-lethal first layer, lethal reserves if needed. The others moved immediately to execute these orders, their coordinated efficiency suggesting regular practice of emergency protocols. Saul returned his attention to the visitors. Normally, I'd be skeptical of strangers arriving with warnings that conveniently position themselves as both problem and solution, he stated frankly. But Panam's judgment carries weight, and our own reconnaissance has detected unusual activity that supports your claims. He studied them both with penetrating assessment. So the question becomes, what exactly do you propose? We help you prepare defensive countermeasures specifically tailored to Arasaka tactical approaches, Lucy offered immediately. I have extensive knowledge of their standard operating procedures for Badlands extraction operations. And I can enhance your digital defenses, Naruto added. Implement protective measures against the specific intrusion methods they'll employ. Saul considered this briefly before nodding acceptance. Panam, coordinate their integration with our technical teams. I want enhanced defenses operational within 3 hours. His gaze hardened slightly. But understand this, while we appreciate the warning, the Aldecaldos won't be drawn into corporate warfare. We defend our own, nothing more. Understood, Lucy acknowledged, respecting both the boundary and the directness with which it was established. As Saul returned to coordinating the broader evacuation preparations, Panam led them toward a separate structure identified by distinctive antenna arrays and electromagnetic shielding, clearly the clan's technical center. Don't take Saul's caution personally, she advised as they walked. The Aldecaldos have suffered from corporate manipulation before, promises of protection that became exploitation. His skepticism keeps us alive. It's a reasonable position, Lucy agreed. Night City corporations view nomads as either obstacles to eliminate or resources to exploit. Which makes me curious why you're helping us at all, Panam challenged, though without hostility. You clearly have Night City training, probably corporate background before whatever made you independent. What's your stake in protecting nomads? The direct question aligned with Naruto's earlier advice about nomad communication preferences, prompting Lucy to consider her response carefully. Professional habit suggested a calculated answer balancing information disclosure against strategic advantage. Instead, she found herself offering unexpected honesty. Naruto risked expose. You were to research technology that might help him. That exposure now threatens your people. Tactical pragmatism suggests eliminating variables that might compromise our primary objectives. She met Panam's gaze directly. But he believes you deserve better than becoming collateral damage in our conflict with Arasaka. I'm deferring to his judgment. Panam studied her for a moment before a smile slowly transformed her features. Well damn, honesty from a city runner. Now I've seen everything. She glanced at Naruto with something like affectionate exasperation. Your influence, I'm guessing. Lucy makes her own decisions. Naruto replied, though with evident appreciation for the exchange. I just suggested directness might be more productive than Night City calculations. Smart man, Panam acknowledged. Leading them into the technical center where several nomads worked at various stations, some familiar netrunning equipment interspersed with modified devices of clearly Aldecaldo design. Mitch, Panam called to an older man with mechanical augmentations visible along his arms. Got some specialists to help with our corporate problem. The man turned, assessing them both with expert, earnest eyes that lingered on Naruto's synthetic body with particular interest. Interesting construction, he noted, professional curiosity evident. Custom work, recent fabrication. Neural interface capacity beyond commercial standards. You have good eyes, Naruto acknowledged, genuine respect in his tone. 30 years salvaging and repurposing corporate tech builds certain skills, Mitch replied with modest pride. Though I don't recognize some of your components. Experimental design, Lucy explained smoothly. But our immediate concern is enhancing your defensive systems against Arasaka intrusion methods. Mitch nodded. Professional focus immediately prioritized. Our digital infrastructure is decentralized, multiple redundant systems with isolated security protocols. Physical defenses include electromagnetic countermeasures and signal disruption fields. Solid foundation, Lucy assessed. But Arasaka's Badlands extraction teams use specialized equipment designed specifica LLY to penetrate nomad defensive systems. For the next 2 hours, they worked alongside the Aldecaldo technical team, implementing enhanced security protocols and targeted countermeasures. Lucy Prov. IDED detailed insights into Arasaka tactical methodologies, while Naruto contributed digital defense innovations that clearly impressed even the experienced nomad technicians. Lucy observed the Aldo's technical sophistication with growing respect. Beneath their frontier appearance lay expertise and innovation that rivaled corporate R&D divisions, though applied toward community protection rather than profit generation. She also noticed the easy rapport Naruto established with the nomad technicians, especially Panam, whose animated discussions with him revealed both technical brilliance and passionate conviction. Unlike Lucy's methodical precision, Panam approached problems with intuitive leaps and creative solutions that complemented Naruto's unconventional methods. Your synthetic body integration is impressive, Panam noted during a brief pause in their work, examining the connection between Naruto's digital consciousness and physical form. But the power requirements must be substantial. How long can you maintain stable manifestation? Approximately 72 hours with current technology, Naruto admitted. After that, power depletion forces return to digital space for regeneration. Panam frowned thoughtfully. The limitation is energy conversion efficiency, not storage capacity. Your digital consciousness requires specific frequencies to maintain physical coherence. Precisely, Naruto confirmed, evident surprise at her immediate understanding. Standard power cells provide raw energy, but the conversion process creates significant waste heat and diminishing returns over time. We might have something that could help, Panam suggested, excitement animating her features. The clan's been developing alternative power systems based on salvaged corpora Te prototypes, specifically designed for consciousness-to-machine interfaces. Lucy found herself unexpectedly interested in this exchange, both the technical implications and the evident enthusiasm with which Panam offered assistance. Something about their interaction suggested history deeper than occasional digital contact. Before she could process this observation further, alarms sounded through out the camp. Proximity warnings from perimeter sensors. Mitch immediately activated the main display, showing multiple incoming vehicles approaching from the east. Arasaka transport signatures, he confirmed grimly. 3 AVs and multiple ground vehicles. Heavier response than expected for standard extraction. They're not here for salvage or routine intimidation, Lucy assessed, studying the approaching formation. That's a capture team with tactical support. Military-grade equipment deployed for high-value target acquisition. Panam was already activating defensive countermeasures, her movements precise despite the evident tension. Mitch, initialize electromagnetic disruption fields. Target their communication systems first, then guidance packages. She turned to Naruto and Lucy. We need to accelerate evacuation. Primary concern is getting our people clear before engagement. I can help, Naruto offered immediately. My digital access allows me to disrupt their tactical coordination systems directly. Lucy nodded agreement. I'll coordinate with perimeter defense teams. Arasaka will deploy net runners to counter your electronic defenses. I can intercept their intrusion attempts. The Aldecaldo Technical Center transformed instantly from development space to battle command, nomad technicians shifting to defensive operations with practiced efficiency. Lucy recognized the smooth transition from peace to combat readiness. These people had faced corporate aggression before and developed protocols accordingly. Incoming transmission, Mitch announced. Arasaka requesting communication. Put it through. Panam directed, her expression hardening into tactical focus. Let's hear what excuse they're using this time. The main display activated, showing the severe features of an Arasaka security commander, augmented eyes and military-grade facial implants marking him as specialized tactical leadership. Aldecaldo settlement, the commander began without preamble. This is Captain Takeda. Arasaka Special Acquisitions. We have detected illegal technology within your encampment, specifically, unauthorized digital entities classified as corporate intellectual property. Surrender these assets immediately or face appropriate response. Panam stepped forward, her posture projecting confident authority despite the implicit threat. Captain Takeda, this settlement operates under Nusa Nomad Protection Statutes. We possess no illegal technology or corporate assets. Your presence constitutes territorial violation under Section 34 of the Resource Settlement Act. The legal response was clearly practiced. Lucy recognized the strategic invocation of legislation that, while routinely ignored by corporations, created bureaucratic complications if violated too explicitly. Captain Takeda's expression remained unmoved. Our scans indicate the presence of digital anomaly designated Kyubi class, confirmed within your network infrastructure approximately 72 hours ago. This entity represents proprietary technology under Arasaka security protocols. Lucy's gaze shifted to Naruto, whose synthetic features had tightened at the specific designation. The confirmation that Arasaka had indeed identified him specifically, not merely detected generic unauthorized access, carried troubling implications. Your scans are in error, Panam countered smoothly. Quote, but we welcome properly filed inspection requests through Nusa regulatory channels, with appropriate judicial oversight. The Arasaka commander's patience visibly thinned. You have 5 minutes to comply with surrender protocols. After that time, we will initiate appropriate extraction procedures. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving momentary silence in the command center before Panam turned to address the technical team. Evacuation status. Families with children already moving through southern exit routes, Mitch reported. Essential equipment loaded. Technical infrastructure begin. Ning controlled shutdown and physical disconnection. Naruto stepped forward. I should surrender myself. This confrontation is happening because of my actions. Absolutely not, Panam rejected immediately, surprising Lucy with her vehemence. The Aldecaldos don't sacrifice people to corporate demands, whether they're flesh and blood or digital consciousness. She's right, Lucy added, Tactica. Assessment overriding potential personal advantages of Naruto's suggestion. Surrendering would provide Arasaka exactly what Project Sage requires, an intact specimen of non-standard digital entity. His strategic disadvantage would outweigh any temporary relief for the Aldecaldos. Panam nodded agreement. Besides, we've dealt with corporate intimidation before. Our defensive systems are specific. Ally designed to discourage direct assault while facilitating evacuation. Naruto still appeared troubled, synthetic features conveying genuine concern. At minimum, I should engage their systems directly. Create digital distraction to disrupt their coordination. Agreed, Panam conceded. But from secure position, not surrender. Mitch, prepare neural interface station for remote operation. As the Aldecaldo technicians configured equipment for Naruto's digital engagement, Lucy performed final checks on her combat systems. The synthetic healing patch on her leg from the previous firefight had fully integrated, restoring optimal functionality to her enhanced musculature. You've done this before, she observed to Panam, noting the nomad's calm efficiency amid crisis preparation. Too many times, Panam confirmed grimly. Corporations view the Badlands as extension of their territory, places to dump toxic waste, test experimental weapons, or eliminate problems without urban witnesses. Her expression hardened. The Aldecaldos reject that presumption. Our freedom isn't negotiable. Lucy recognized the conviction beneath these words, not merely rhetoric but fundamental principle guiding action. It reminded her of Naruto's earlier comparison between nomads and his world's independent clans, people defining themselves by values rather than corporate allegiance. 1 minute remaining, Mitch announced. Monitoring the Arasaka Foss's positions through perimeter sensors. They're deploying tactical teams in standard extraction formation, 3-point approach with aerial support. Naruto had connected to the neural interface station, his synthetic body becoming unnaturally still as his consciousness partially transferred to digital space. I'm accessing their tactical network, he reported. Voice slightly distorted as attention divided between physical and digital realms. Multiple security layers, but penetrable. Focus on disrupting coordination between ground and aerial units, Lucy advised. Drawing her weapon and moving toward the command center's exit. I'll join perimeter defense, coordinate physical countermeasures. Panam fell into step beside her, checking. Her own impressive arsenal. A customized tech rifle complemented by multiple backup weapons strategically positioned for quick access. I'll take North Quadrant. Our sharpshooters are already in posit. Ion with non-lethal countermeasures as primary options. They emerged into controlled chaos, Aldecaldos moving with purpose through evacuation protocols while defense teams established positions utilely. Zing the camp's physical structure for tactical advantage. Unlike corporate security with standardized formations, the nomads employed asymmetric positioning that maximized environmental factors. Incoming. Called a perimeter guard as the Arasaka 5-minute ultimatum expired. The corporate response began with textbook precision, electromagnetic pulses targeting communication systems, followed by aerial deployment of suppression drones designed to neutralize defensive positions without causing structural damage to potentially valuable assets. But the Aldecaldos were prepared. Countermeasure systems activated simultaneously, creating localized disruption fields that sent drones spiraling off course. Ground teams deployed signal jammers that fragmented Arasaka tactical coordination, foreseeing them to fall back on less efficient direct command structures. Lucy positioned herself at a defensive juncture where she could observe multiple approach vectors, her enhanced vision tracking Arasa. Personnel movements through environmental interference. Their tactical formations revealed extensive preparation. This wasn't standard nomad intimidation but specifically designed capture operation. They're deploying net runners, she reported through the Aldecaldo communication network, detecting the distinctive signatures of cyberdeck activation. Attempting system penetration from multiple vectors. Countering. Came Naruto's distorted voice through the same channel. Their net runners are encountering unexpected resistance. Through her partial connection to the Aldecaldo network, Luke glimpsed fragments of Naruto's digital engagement, his consciousness moving through system architecture with fluid adaptability that conventional netrunners couldn't match, creating defensive patterns that evolved faster than Arasaka's intrusion programs could analyze. The corporate forces adjusted their approach, abandoning standard electronic warfare for direct physical engagement. Armored personnel carriers advanced toward the perimeter, deploying security teams in tactical formation. Physical breach imminent, Panam warned from her position. North Quadrant reporting troops with extract. Chion equipment, neural disruptors and consciousness containment devices. The specificity of this equipment confirmed Lucis' earlier assessment. This operation targeted Naruto specifically, not merely generic nomad technology. Arasaka had deployed specialized teams trained for digital entity capture, an escalation beyond standard corporate enforcement. They're after me specifically, Naruto confirmed through the communication network. I've accessed their tactical directives. Primary objective is capture of Anomaly Kyubi, with minimal damage to vessel container and core consciousness structure. Not happening. Panam responded firmly. Mitch, activate secondary countermeasures. Targeted EMP against their specialized equipment. The electromagnetic pulse deployed with impressive precision. Not the broad-spectrum disruption of military operations but carefully calibrated energy targeting specific electronic signatures. Lucy watched through enhanced vision as Arasaka's specialized capture equipment faltered. Neural disruptors failing as containment devices reset to factory configurations. This unexpected defense provoked immediate escalation. Arasaka security teams switched own capture protocols to aggressive suppression, deploying combat drones and heavy weaponry previously held in reserve. They're shifting to destructive engagement, Lucy warned, observing the tactical reorganization. Standard corporate protocol when primary objectives are compromised. deny assets to competitors rather than withdraw empty-handed. Gunfire erupted along the perimeter as Arasaka foe. RCES abandoned pretense of regulatory enforcement, now employing military-grade weapons against nomad defensive positions. The Aldecaldos responded with coordinated resistance, not matching corporate fire power directly but utilizing superior positioning and environmental knowledge to maintain tactical advantage despite inferior equipment. Lucy engaged targets with calculated precision, her enhance D reflexes and military-grade implants allowing for effectiveness disproportionate to single combatant. Each shot disabled rather than killed, targeting cybernetic systems and mobility functions rather than vital organs, creating incapacitation without unnecessary fatalities. Across the defensive perimeter, Pan Am demonstrated similar tactical efficiency, though with notably different methodology. Where Lucis' approach reflected professional precision, Pan Am fought with intuitive adaptability, anticipating enemy movements, utilizing environmental factors, and improvising solutions with available resources. Her technical rifle deployed specialized ammunition that disrupted Arasaka's cybernetic systems without permanent damage to the organic components. Through their shared communication channel, Lucy heard Naruto's ongoing digital battle, his consciousness engaged against Arasaka netrunners attempting to penetrate Aldecaldo's systems through increasingly aggressive methods. "They've deployed Black Ice variants," he reported, voice showing strain despite his digital nature. Specialized programs designed specifically for consciousness disruption. Different from standard corporate architecture. Custom designed for entities like me. This confirmation of specialized anti-Naruto technology reinforced the operation's targeted nature. Arasaka had prepared extensively for this confrontation, developing tools specifically for digital entity capture. Evacuation status, Lucy requested, maintaining defensive position while assessing strategic priorities. Primary evacuation 80% complete, Mitch responded. Essential personnel and vulnerable community members clear. Technical infrastructure disconnected and transported. Time to implement final defense protocol, Pan Am decided. Naruto, prepare for physical extraction. Lucy, fall back to command center for coordinated withdrawal. Lucy acknowledged the order with professional efficiency, executing tactical retreat while maintaining suppressive fire to cover her movement. The Aldecaldo defenders implemented similar disciplined withdrawal, a choreographed reduction of defensive perimeter that maintained effectiveness while consolidating toward evacuation points. Inside the command center, she found Naruto disconnecting from the neural interface station, his synthetic body showing signs of strain from extended digital engagement. Pan Am arrived moments later, securing the entrance before joining them at the central console. Arasaka forces breaching outer perimeter, she reported tersely. 4 minutes until they reached this position. Final evacuation transport standing by its southern exit. The clan is clear, Naruto confirmed, evident concern overriding personal safety. Everyone except us and the final defense team, Pan Am assured him. Now we implement Scorched Earth. She activated a specialized program on the command console, one Lucy recognized immediately as militarized data destruction protocol, though modified with nomad adaptations. The system began systematic corruption of any remaining digital infrastructure, rendering salvageable technology worthless to corporate recovery teams. Physical destruction charges placed throughout critical infrastructure, Pan Am continued, inputting activation codes with practiced efficiency. Timed detonation after our departure. Nothing lethal, just expensive inconvenience for Arasaka. Lucy assessed their tactical position with professional detachment. 3 optimal exfiltration routes based on current enemy positioning. Southern corridor offers maximum cover with minimal exposure. Agreed, Pan Am confirmed, completing final destruction protocols before retrieving her weapon. Transport vehicle waiting at extraction point Alpha. Mitch is piloting. As they prepared for final withdrawal, Lucy noted Naruto's synthetic body exhibiting increased stress signals, power fluctuations visible beneath artificial skin, movement patterns showing subtle deterioration. Your physical form is destabilizing, she observed with concern that surprised her with its intensity. Extended digital combat accelerated power consumption, he confirmed, Synthit. IC features tightening with evident discomfort. This body wasn't designed for prolonged high-intensity operations. Pan Am noticed immediately, her expression shifting from tactical focus to personal concern. How bad? Manageable. Naruto assured her, though Lucy detected the diplomatically minimized assessment. Sufficient functionality for extraction. We need to move, Lucy urged, hearing Arasaka forces advancing through the camp's outer structures. They're deploying building clearing protocols. ETA 3 minutes to our position. They moved through the command center's concealed a reinforced passage leading away from obvious approach vectors, designed specifically for emergency evacuation. Panam led with confident familiarity, navigating the route with the assured movement of someone who had planned and practiced this withdrawal multiple times. Outside, the Aldecaldo camp stood largely abandoned, essential structures already evacuated, remaining infrastructure prepared for controlled destruction. Distant gunfire marked the defensive team's continued resistance, drawing Arasaka attention away from the primary evacuation route. 200 meters to extraction point, Panam noted as they moved through concealment provided by carefully positioned structures. Stick to shadow pathways, they're specifically designed to defeat corporate thermal scanning. Lucy Ada, PTED immediately to the Nomad evacuation protocols, impressed by their tactical sophistication despite limited resources. The pathways Panam indicated maintained perfect concealment from aerial observation while providing optimal cover against ground forces, evidence of detailed understanding of corporate tactical methodologies. Naruto moved with increasingly visible difficulty, his synthetic body showing progressive power degradation despite obvious efforts to maintain functionality. Without discussion, Lucy positioned herself beside him, providing support that maintained movement efficiency while minimizing visibility to potential observers. Extraction vehicle sighted, Panam confirmed as they approached a heavily modified transport concealed beneath camouflage netting. Mitch, prepare for immediate departure. The older Nomad technician acknowledged from the driver's position, activating systems with practiced efficiency. Arasaka air support redeploying to southern perimeter, he warned. 2 minutes until they establish aerial surveillance over evacuation routes. Then we move in one, Panam decided, helping Naruto into the vehicle before taking defensive position to cover Lucy's boarding. Detonation sequence authorized on my mark. Once secured inside, Panam initiated the camp's final defense protocol, controlled detonation charges activating throughout abandoned infrastructure, creating tactical confusion and physical obstacles that would significantly delay Arasaka's pursuit capabilities. The transport vehicle accelerated away from the destruction, Mitch Navi, gating concealed routes invisible to standard surveillance. Multiple redundant countermeasures obscured their trail, electromagnetic disruption, thermal masking, and physical terrain features selected specifically for pursuit deterrence. Clean extraction, Mitch confirmed after several minutes, monitoring sensor readings that showed no pursuit signatures. They're occupied with salvage assessment and wounded extraction. Tactical withdrawal successful. Lucy observed Panam's reaction. Not triumph or celebration, but the quiet satisfaction of professional accomplishment tempered by awareness of necessity rather than choice. This wasn't victory but survival, an important distinction that reminded Lucy of her own military experience. Naruto needs technical attention, she noted, indicating his synthetic body's continuing degradation. Power systems approaching critical depletion. Panam immediately shifted from tactical leader to technical specialist, moving beside Naruto to assess his condition directly. Consciousness containment still stable, but physical interface systems failing. We need to establish alternative power source before complete shutdown. I can transfer back to digital space, Naruto suggested. Synthetic voice showing distortion as systems failed. Temporary solution until replacement body available. Not necessary, Panam countered with confident assertion. We have prototype technology at our fallback location, experimental interface systems designed specifically for consciousness transference between vessels. Lucy found herself unexpectedly concerned. About Naruto's deteriorating condition, professional assessment of acid vulnerability inexplicably blended with something more personal. Estimated time to fallback location. 20 minutes, Mitch replied. Accelerating the transport to maximum safe velocity. Alternative route to avoid potential pursuit, but terrain is favorable. Panam had already begun implementing emergency stabilization procedures, connecting portable power systems to Naruto's synthetic body through improvised interfaces. Her technical skill manifested in rapid adaptation of available resources to immediate needs, hallmark of nomad engineering philosophy. This will maintain critical systems temporarily, she explained, hands moving with practiced precision despite the vehicle's movement across rough terrain. C. Consciousness integrity is priority, physical function secondary until we reach proper facilities. Lucy observed their interaction with analytical detachment that felt increasingly artificial, a prophase. Sional distance maintained through deliberate effort rather than natural separation. Something about Panam's immediate, unhesitating response to Naruto's needs triggered complex emotional assessment. UCY found herself reluctant to examine directly. Your clan sacrificed significant resources to assist us, she noted instead, redirecting attention to tactical assessment. The camp infrastructure, equipment, established location, all abandoned because of our presence. Panam glanced up from her technical work, expression reflecting momentary surprise at Lucy's concern. The Aldecaldos value people above possessions. Infrastructure can be rebuilt, technology replaced. What matters is everyone survived. Still, Naruto interjected, his synthetic features conveying genuine regret despite system degradation. Your people suffered because of me. I accessed your systems without considering potential consequences. You warned us before consequences became catastrophic, Panam countered firmly. And you fought alongside us when trouble arrived. By nomad standards, that makes you family, not liability. Her expression softened slightly. Besides, it's not the first time Arasaka's forced us to relocate. And it won't be the last. Nomads adapt. It's what we do. The transport vehicle descended into a concealed valley where the remaining Aldecaldo vehicles had established temporary encamp. P meant, not permanent settlement but transitional staging area for subsequent relocation. Despite the emergency evacuation, the nomads had already established functional infrastructure, medical facilities, technical stations. Communal spaces organized with practiced efficiency. Welcome to Aldecaldo Contingency Site Bravo, Panam announced as they approached. Prepared location for situations exactly like this one. We maintain multiple fallback positions throughout the Badlands, never dependent on single settlement. The transport stopped near a specialized technical facility, portable structure. Housing equipment considerably more sophisticated than its exterior suggested. Several nomad technicians awaited their arrival, prepared for immediate action. Synthetic body failure, Panam reported. As they transferred Naruto from the vehicle. Consciousness stable but physical interface critical. Prepare interface cradle alpha for emergency transfer. Lucy followed as they moved Naruto into the technical facility. Observing equipment that defied standard classification. Neither purely corporate nor conventional nomad technology, but innovative fusion of salvaged prototypes and original engineering. Central to the space stood what Panam had called the interface cradle, a specialized containment system clearly designed for consciousness transfer operations. This technology, Lucy noted with professional assessment, exceeds standard nomad capabilities. Because it's not standard, Panam confirmed while preparing the system with practiced familiarity. The Aldecaldos have been developing consciousness interface technology for decades, originally to help clan members with catastrophic injuries, later expanded to broader applications. The revelation carried significant implications. Nomads possessing technology corporations would literally kill to obtain, developed independently through generations of specialized research. Lucy reassessed her understanding of Aldecaldo capabilities with appropriate adjustment. You can stabilize his consciousness if the synthetic body fails completely, she confirmed, watching as technicians connected Naruto to the interface system through multiple specialized conduits. Better than stabilize, Panam replied with confident assurance. This system can maintain consciousness integrity indefinitely while simultaneously facilitating transfer to alternative physical vessels. She activated primary systems with practiced efficiency. It's how we've preserved the minds of elders with terminal physical conditions, maintaining their knowledge and experience even as their bodies fail. Lucy processed this information with tactical reassessment of Aldecaldo's strategic value. Clearly, these nomads possessed capabilities that elevated the from potential allies to essential partners. Their technological innovations in precisely the domain most relevant to Naruto's existence couldn't be coincidence. You've been developing this specifically for him, she realized. Observing the interface system's specialized configuration. The technical parameters are optimized for digital to physical consciousness transfer. Panam's expression confirmed this assessment. Though she continued working without interruption. He saved my life 2 years ago during a netrunning operation gone wrong. Corporate hunters had me trapped in a collapsing system. He created safe passage when none existed. Her hands moved across control interfaces with practiced precision. Afterward, I recognized his nature was different, not human consciousness uploaded to digital space. Not artificial intelligence, but something else entirely. So you developed technology to help him achieve stable physical manifestation, Lucy concluded, unexpectedly impressed by both the technical achievement and the loyalty it represented. The Aldecaldos repay their debts, Panam stated simply. He protected me, we protect him. Nomad ethics aren't complicated. The interface system activated fully, surrounding Naruto's failing synthetic body with specialized energy fields calibrated to consciousness patterns rather than biological signatures. As the transfer process initiated, his physical form gradually powered down while the cradle's indicators showed successful consciousness preservation. Transfer complete, Panam confirmed with evident relief. Consciousness structure intact, no degradation detected in primary cognitive patterns. Naruto's voice emerged from the interface system's communication array, no longer constrained by synthetic vocal cords. That was interesting, different from standard digital transition. Because it's not digital space, Panam explained, monitoring system diagnostics with careful attention. The cradle creates what technicians call consciousness suspension, a state between physical embodiment and digital existence where your core patterns remain intact without requiring either biological or synthetic housing. Essentially artificial limbo, Lucy observed, studying the technical readouts with professional interest. Neither fully embodied nor fully digital. Temporary solution, Panam clarified. He cradle wasn't designed for permanent consciousness housing, just transition and emergency preservation. She turned to Naruto's disembodied presence. But it gives us time to develop something better. Better, Lucy questioned. A sustainable physical vessel, Panam explained, excitement animating her features despite recent combat and evacuation. We've been developing prototype technology integrating biological components with synthetic infrastructure, a hybrid body designed specifically for digital consciousness housing. Through the interface system, Naruto's voice carried clear interest. You think you could create something that wouldn't require constant power cycling? A permanent physical solution, not permanent, Panam cautioned, but substantially more efficient than your previous body. Our research indicates properly designed hybrid vessels could maintain consciousness integration for weeks rather than days without significant power depletion. The technological implications extended far beyond their immediate situation. Such capabilities represented revolutionary advancement in consciousness transfer technology, potentially reshaping fundamental understanding of physical-digital interface possibilities. This research, Lucy noted carefully, would be worth billions to corporations. Arasaka and Militech would deploy entire military divisions to acquire it. Why do you think we keep relocating? Panam asked with grim understanding. The Aldecaldos have safeguarded this technology through 3 generations, developing it slowly, secretly, for our own payo. Please needs rather than corporate profit margins. The revelation clarified Arasaka's aggressive response to detected intrusion, not merely pursuit of Naruto as digital anomaly, but potential discover. Why of nomad technology that threatened corporate monopoly on consciousness transfer research? How long would development of this hybrid vessel require? Lucy asked, strategic planning already incorporating this new variable. With adequate resources and your digital friends' direct input on configuration requirements. Panam considered briefly. 2 weeks for functional prototype, perhaps another week for optimization and testing. That timeline exceeds our operational parameters, Lucy noted with reflexive strategic assessment. Current mission objectives require more immediate solutions. Panam smiled with unexpected understanding. Always the city runner, calculating everything in mission terms. Her expression remained free of judgment, merely observation. The Aldecaldos measure progress differently, generations rather than quarterly projections. What matters isn't immediate resolution but sustainable progress. From the interface system, Naruto's voice carried thoughtful consideration. Lucis right about immediate operational needs. But your technology offers possibilities beyond our current tactical horizon. His tone shifted to include Lucy directly. We need both roaches, short-term solutions for immediate challenges, long-term development for sustainable existence. The balanced perspective struck Lucy as characteristic of his approach, neither purely pragmatic nor exclusively idealistic, but integration of seemingly opposing viewpoints into cohesive strategy. She found herself nodding agreement despite habitual preference for defined tactical parameters. The Aldecaldos can continue development while we pursue immediate objectives, she acknowledged. Parallel processing rather than sequential execution. Panam's expression brightened at this conceptual framework. Exactly. While you handle your corporate problems in the city, we'll advance the hybrid vessel technology here. Regular information exchange, coordinated progress, mutual support without requiring physical presence. And meanwhile, Naruto added from the interface system, I can alternate between digital existence and temporary physical manifestation as operational requirements dictate. The strategy satisfied both immediate tactical necessities and longer-term technological development, an approach that respected both Night City operational protocols and nomad developmental methodologies. We should return to the city soon, Lucy noted, checking chronometric displays. The Konpeki Plaza operation remains critical for intelligence gathering regarding Project Sage. I can provide temporary housing for Naruto's consciousness in a portable interface module, Panam offered, already moving toward specialized equipment storage. Not as sophisticated as the cradle, but efficient for secure transport and subsequent transfer to your city systems. As Panam prepared the transport module, Lucy found herself contemplating the nomad woman with unexpected complexity, professional assessment blended with something less easily categorized. Panam's technical brilliance, tactical adaptability, and evident loyalty to Naruto represented both asset and complication in ways Lucy's strategic training hadn't prepared her to evaluate. The Aldecaldos will remain valuable allies, she noted to Naruto through the interface system, maintaining professional framing despite underlying uncertainty. They're more than allies, he responded, perception apparently undiminished by disembodied state. They're friends. Family, by their standards. Your standards too, I think, Lucy observed, recalling his earlier comparisons between nomads and his world's clans. Maybe. The acknowledgement carried thoughtful consideration. In my world, bonds between people were our greatest strength. What separated mere survival from truly living? I see echoes of that philosophy here among the nomads. Before Lucy could pursue this philosophical tangent further, Panam returned with the portable interface module, specialized containment technology disguised as conventional equipment to avoid attracting attention during transport. This will maintain consciousness integrity for approximately 48 hours. She explained, connecting the module to the cradle system. After that, he'll need either transfer to stable housing or return to fully digital state. As the transfer process initiated, Lucy observed Panam's careful attention to technical details, the focused precision that ensured Naruto's consciousness transferred without degradation or disruption. Her evident concern transcended professional responsibility, suggesting personal investment beyond technical partnership. Transfer complete, Panam confirmed as indicators shifted to positive status. Module ready for transport. Thank you. Naruto's voice emerged from the portable system, slightly compressed but clearly recognizable. For everything, the warning, the fight, this technology. The Aldecaldos took significant risks for someone who's technically not even human. Panam's expression softened with evident affection. Humanity isn't defined by biological composition. It's about choices, connections, protecting what matters. She placed a hand briefly on the interface module. By any measure that counts, you've demonstrated more humanity than most people born with beating hearts. The simple profound assessment hung in the air, philosophical position stated as self-evident truth rather than debatable proposition. Lucy found herself unexpectedly affected by Panam's perspective, its forward rejection of conventional divisions between human and digital consciousness challenging fundamental assumptions embedded in Night City's technological hierarchy. As they prepared for departure, Mitch approached with tactical update. Perimeter sensors report no pursuit activity. Arasaka forces remain at primary settlement location, apparently conducting salvage operations despite our scorched earth protocol. They won't find anything useful, Panam assured him. But maintain elevated alert status for at least 72 hours. Corporate grudges have long memories. Final prepara. Tions completed with nomad efficiency. Transportation arranged. Security protocols established. Communication channels secured against potential surveillance. Throughout the process, Lucy observed the Aldecaldo's organizational effectiveness with professional appreciation. These weren't merely survivalists but sophisticated community maintaining complex technical and social infrastructure despite constant corporate pressure. As they prepared to board transport back to Night City, Panam drew Lucy aside briefly, her expression shifting to unexpected seriousness. A word of advice, she offered without preamble. Naruto sees the best in people, believes in potential rather than limitation. It makes him both powerful and vulnerable. Her gaze held Lucis with direct intensity. In Night City, Hat perspective needs protection as much as his physical existence does. Lucy processed this unexpected counsel with careful neutrality. You care for him. He saved me when he had no reason to, guided me when I was lost. Believed in me when I doubted myself. Panam's response came without hesitation or embarrassment. So yes, I care. And I'm guessing you're beginning to as well, whether you've admitted it to yourself or not. The observation struck uncomfortably close to emotional complexity Lucy had deliberately avoided examining. Her response emerged with professional deflection rather than direct engagement. Our partnership serves mutual tactical objectives. Panam smiled with unexpected understanding. Keep telling yourself that. Maybe eventually you'll actually believe it. Her expression softened slightly. Just remember, he's not some netrunning program or corporate asset. Whatever he is, however he exists, he's a person who can be hurt in ways that have nothing to do with physical or digital damage. Before Lucy could formulate appropriate response to this unsolicited perspective, Panam had already moved away, returning to final coordination with her technical team. The conversation left Lucy with uncomfortable awareness of emotional complications she'd professionally avoided throughout her career, connections beyond tactical utility, considerations transcending strategic assessment. As their transport departed the Aldecaldo encampment, returning toward Night City's neon-stained horizon, Lucy found herself contemplating the complex interplay of allies and objectives their journey to the Badlands had revealed. What had begun as simple warning had evolved into technological partnership, philosophical reconsideration, and emotional complication beyond standard operational parameters. Beside her, the portable module containing Naruto's consciousness hummed with quiet technological efficiency, physical manifestation of existence that defied conventional classification. Neither fully human nor purely digital, neither entirely of this world nor completely alien, his presence represented integration of seemingly incompatible states into functional harmony. Perhaps that integration offered metaphorical framework for their evolving situation, Night City pragmatism alongside nomad idealism, tactical necessity balanced with ethical consideration, prophase. Sional partnership developing emotional dimensions beyond strategic calculation. Parallel processing indeed, Lucy reflected as Night City's jagged skyline materialized through pollution haze, multiple operations proceeding simultaneously. Separate yet interconnected, independent yet mutually reinforcing. Tactical complexity mirroring philosophical depth. The journey had changed operational parameters in ways impossible to fully calculate, introducing new variables, revealing unexpected resources, establishing connections beyond immediate tactical utility. Whatever awaited them in Night City's shadowed corridors, they returned differently than they had departed. And difference, Lucy acknowledged with unusual philosophical consideration, represented both vulnerability and potential, risk and opportunity indivisibly combined. Much like Naruto himself, existing between seemingly exclusive states while creating something entirely new from their integration. Night City approached, its neon promise simultaneously alluring and threatening. The Konpeki operation awaited, Project Sage continued development, corporate hunters maintained pursuit. Yet amid these tactical challenges, something else had emerged, possibility transcending mere survival, connection suggesting purpose beyond strategic necessity. Parallel processing indeed. Chapter 3 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.